365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Brooks! Goodbye. Jonathan Brooks. 54 yards for the Texas touchdown.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Empty backfield for Williams. He's got a wing back and a receiver boundary side right. High snap, yanked down, sets to throw, scans to his right, scans back to his left. Is he going to run now? Now he fakes, running near side. He's going to whip it downfield, and it is caught at the 35-yard line across the field, running to the right side. He's being chased by Woods. Can't get him. 10-5 end zone. Touchdown.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Estimate is loose. Hardrick Estimate. Touchdown Notre Dame.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
So that is a costly penalty that puts Kentucky back on the field. And then Ray Davis. All day Ray. Look at him go. Man, oh man, is Davis doing it up. 75-yard touchdown for sweet baby Ray.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Anais coming near side. Anais Smith. He's to midfield. Cuts it back. This one may go to the house. Ain't nobody going to catch Anais Smith.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, here we go at a new weekend, another weekend of college football, and some bangers coming up, including Texas and OU, Alabama and Texas, or at Texas A&M and College Station. A lot to get to. We'll get to all of that. And Scotty B is the TexasBeefHouse.com $100 gift card winner. Picked 9 games. He won the tiebreaker. Scotty B. Everybody in the chat room congratulate him. Scotty B, congratulations. I hadn't even told him yet. $100 TexasBeefHouse.com gift card winner again. Thanks to Kim Coulter for providing those. Where do we start from the weekend? And I got to tell you, I think we should start with a 26-point comeback. Baylor was down 21-0, 28-7, 35-7, 35-10 at halftime or whatever it was, and still have no idea, but they found a way. Here are a couple of tweets from after the game. First of all, Monterey Baldwin, who all of a sudden appeared, 150 yards receiving. We need. And you heard some of the comments after the game. Jack McKenzie was there with the post game about players knowing that there's negativity out there. And rightfully so, a lot of negative because of the 1-3 start. Also, after the game, Brett McMurphy was there. Jack McKenzie and Paul Catalina were there. Brett McMurphy, I've seen hundreds, thousands of games. I have never witnessed what Baylor did, trailing 35-7, 4 minutes left third quarter, and outscored UCF 29-0 in the final 19 minutes. And then finally this one, and then we talk about it. RG3 went on Twitter and said this about Baylor football coach Dave Aranda. He's a good man, father, and coach. They will get it figured out. I will continue to support Coach Aranda and encourage us all to do the same. What a comeback. I traded a couple of texts with him earlier today, and he just said, listen, people want me to come back and coach. He goes, they need to give the coaches time, although, yes, he can understand some of the frustration.
Well, him coming back and coaching would be a terrible idea because he's never done that before.
Yeah, he would make less money than he's making now.
Yeah, he would make less money, maybe. Yeah, probably. And then at the end of the day, that's the Mike Singletary thing all over again. But that to be said, it's amazing what happens, outside of some of the weird stuff that happened. But when you give Richard Reese the ball more, and when Monterey Baldwin shows up and can make plays, the two guys who are the dynamic playmakers on your team make plays, you can cut into a lead and you can come back. But I think to just echo what Brett McMurphy said, I've never seen a team go from playing – a lot of times you see a team come back they're not playing their worst ball. They're just kind of unlucky. Baylor was playing so terribly early on in that game and without any confidence at all, and then was able to flip the switch in a way that was so bizarre. And part of it was the crowd had left because they thought the game was in hand. So Baylor was going into the quiet side of the field in the fourth quarter and didn't have as much interference. Now, I think that was more of a detriment for UCF than a benefit for Baylor, but it was a little thing that helped. And because, look, had the whole crowd that had been there at the beginning of the game been there at the end of the game when Timmy McClain made that ridiculously stupid play that should never even have, been drawn up in his imagination, when he made that play, that place would have exploded. I think Baylor might have lost their edge a little bit, but they didn't. And here they are coming back, largest one in school history, and have staved off a disastrous season for at least another week.
Yeah, it was freaking incredible, guys. We've talked a lot of negative and we've talked a lot of bad about this team and where they are or where they aren't and all that. That was absolutely amazing that they came back to win that football game. And to be clear, it was 26 or it was 28 points. It was 35-7. 35-7. They came down from 28 points and scored 29 unanswered to win that game. That's what happened. And it was just beyond my wildest dreams, in terms of what I thought we were going to be talking about halfway through that game, 3/4 of the way through that game, after the first quarter of that game versus what we have eventually now landed on to talk about, which is this miraculous comeback. UCF fans, I'm sorry. Gus Malzahn failed you guys. That game was all set up to be the grand home debut in the Big 12 in Orlando with the 10-year anniversary of the Fiesta Bowl, and it was all there for the taking, and it looked like it was just going to be one big party. And then, here came the Bears. And for the first time in a long time, they created their own breaks. They took advantage of the other breaks they were given. And, for example, the play I look back is the scoop and score. Now, UCF had one of those too. Now, that was a little bit controversial, was it not? I think that play you could have ruled Dom Richardson was down. But regardless, that right there looks like it's a moment where Baylor could be closing in on making this a game much earlier. Instead, they don't get the benefit of the call. Dom Richardson's not down, and UCF scoops and scores it, and all of a sudden it's a 3-touchdown game, and you're like, oh, my God. But later on what happens, Caden Jenkins gets his own scoop and score, and this is what I've been screaming from the hilltops now for a couple weeks. You can say what you want about Dave Aranda. You can say what you want about Jeff Grimes. Ultimately, players have to make plays.
Yep.
Period. Players have to make plays, especially in college football. And so Caden Jenkins, that play in particular stands out because 100 other times that happens, he trips and falls, ball bounces around, UCF recovers it.
Or just jumps on it.
He jumps on it, and he lays on it, and they have to then drive the rest of the field. He not only is Johnny on the spot, but he gets it. He doesn't break stride. He takes it all the way to the house, and because of that, he doesn't waste any more time. Because of that, you've got this giant swing versus, hey, we just recovered a turnover. Oh, God, our offense is back on the field. They've got to now, plod along and score. Now you've got boom, touchdown, and it was a huge, huge play, and they just made plays. That's really what it boiled down to me. And UCF, I'm sure you can diagnose it a lot of different ways, but, yeah, an absolutely awful taste got to be left in your mouth after that on Saturday, given how that started and how it finished. And that's the Big 12 life for you, man. That's what it's going to be like more often than not. But, yeah, crushing loss. Crushing's too harsh for UCF. They're going to be fine, but an amazing and much-needed win for the Baylor Bears.
Yeah, by the way, shout out to the new helmet behind Craig on the set.
Oh, sweet.
UCF
Beautiful
gave that to us this week. So they were great. They're first-class organization, UCF, all the way around. I have nothing bad to say other than Gus Malzahn got too conservative. I kind of get it. I kind of understand why he did it, because he was trying to get to the end of that game because he knew that, if I give them an opportunity, then this is a Big 12 team, even one that's struggling, they can jump out. He just didn't realize that by doing that, he was giving them the opportunity. He was trying to shorten it up. They should have just kept going. And then the fans leaving would have made sense, but it absolutely was so crazy to see. And Baylor hadn't, that scoop and score, that's their only big, like, game-changing play of the year, and it happened at the right time. They hadn't had one of those all year, and that includes 2 muffed punts against Texas before that game got out of hand that they didn't do anything with. So they have not had a big game-changing moment, and they had it at the perfect right time. And look, Monterey Baldwin made some big plays, but that was the one that was the quick change.
Let me tell you something about Monterey Baldwin, by the way. I sent a text to Shoemaker head football coach Toby Foreman. Great guy. And I said it was great to see Monterey have the opportunities today and came up big. They needed every yard. And he said, listen, it was nice. But he goes, but I want to be specific here. He said, I love what Dave Aranda does as a football coach to the players because Monterey can only kind of blame himself for not being more productive early. And I asked Dave Aranda about that, about Toby Foreman's comment in the one-on-one we'll have with him today at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, he was sensational. I mean, he was
and
playing
has that ability
at 100% and giving it all his effort and was locked in and was making plays and not just like going down with contact, but like breaking tackles and gaining extra.
Running
and like
over
everything
people,
mattered in this game. Every yard, every 2-point conversion, every it all mattered, and Monterey was a part of a lot of it, and that is what you've been expecting from him. Like when people say, why is Baylor worse than you expected? Well, for one, they lost their starting quarterback, and I don't know that we ever put enough onus on the fact that Blake Shapen is that much better than Sawyer Robertson. Like that alone changed a lot, but I think we don't look at Blake as though he's Caleb Williams, and so it's like, oh, well, you can replace him. He's not putting up, crazy numbers. That can be replaced. And as we learned, no, it cannot, because Sawyer Robertson's still very much in development. So you got Blake Shapen back, but like I said earlier, players make plays, so your quarterback's suddenly making a lot more plays. And Monterey frickin' Baldwin, like that's a guy that when the season started, you go like, who are going to be their weapons? He is at the top of the list of the weapons along with Richard Reese, and both of those guys had their best games of the year by far, along with Shapen's return and a few other things like, Caden Jenkins making a couple of plays. And that all added up to the best team win that I've seen them have in a really long time, the biggest comeback that we've seen, even bigger than 61-58, not in terms of importance, but in terms of the margin. It was the biggest in school history, as everybody's probably well aware by now. And you know what? Was it season-changing? I don't know, because let's face it, UCF was kicking their ass. I mean, they were beating them up early on with the big play. 3 drives and under
8 plays? They had
3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns in 8 plays.
Yeah, and less than 3 minutes. I mean, it was ridiculous at first, and so I give them a lot of credit. I'm sure there's a lot of finger pointing about being too conservative, as you said, Paul, and whatnot. They're going to be in the fine in the long run, but that was as tough of a loss as that was for them. That was a win that Baylor desperately needed, not just to get the victory, but the style in which they did it, I think, is going to inspire them potentially moving forward.
If it doesn't, then, again, they are who they were up until the 29-point comeback. Here is a snapshot of Sikkim365.com in the forums when Baylor was getting drilled. Changes, the Dear Mac Rhodes, the bend over by the other bay, snap count. What do we need to change about recruiting? Fire Powledge. Mac is the root of the problem. Clean house, on and on and on. And, yeah, people were angry, frustrated, and had every right to kind of feel that way. And that's what message boards are for, or social media. And there we go with that. And, of course, a lot of it changed. And even somebody put up, I've got receipts because of the negativity, and then that turned into another, like, daycare. But I'll say this. I don't know why, because, Paul, remember, I used to be crazy about tweeting during a game. Oh, you got first down. I did not. I almost maybe sat there and was like, I don't even know what to say here. And then never did until the game was over. And I'm sure there's a few that may have said some things that maybe at the time they believed in or what they said, but some personal things you wish you would have probably deleted them. But the bottom line, they took care of business.
I mean, the message board thing's interesting, but you have a screen cap of UCF's post-game message board? Because I guarantee you it looks pretty much exactly like that. And you just flip Aranda for Malzahn and flip McLean for Shapen or whatever, and it's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, look, there are problems with this team that did not get solved.
No,
it won't get solved,
Yep.
and will not get solved this season. They're going to have to coach around some things that are still going to be problems. You just have to lessen them. You can't solve them. It's kind of like a wound that's not going to heal until you can like go to some special clinic. Like that's what they're going to have to do. They're still, to me, in my opinion, not a deeply talented team. I think that this is a group that is very developmental. Not that there's not talent there, but I think that there are teams throughout the Big 12 that are head and shoulders talent above them. So they're going to have to scrap out a lot of wins if they continue it, a lot like they did the other day.
While they're letting younger players grow up and start to make plays that give them confidence moving forward.
So, but you're not going to, like, it's not like you can just, go on the waiver wire and find that guy you need.
Well, you can in about,
Yeah, but you
3 or
can't
4
do
months.
it. You can't do it now. So there are things that are going to change, but they were not playing with confidence. We talked about it on the pregame show, Smokey. People were saying passion, and I think that's misguided. I think there's a difference between passion and confidence. They were playing with passion. They just didn't have any confidence, so that when something went wrong, it was just like, burr, 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 again.
All right, let's get to some other stories as we move from also continuing to summarize the weekend. Congratulations, West Virginia, on the win at TCU. That's the way they're going to win. They're going to make it ugly, and that's not a negative. They find a way to win. And TCU's now lost twice already in the first, 5 or 6 weeks of the season. This week, Texas and OU, the Red River rivalry. Max Olson put this up. This is hard to imagine, but then no, it's not. First time since 2011 that both teams go into the game unbeaten. The Big 12 title game in 2018 was obviously a big deal, but it feels like this is the most anticipated showdown since perhaps 2008, when they had that trifecta in the Big 12 that was so controversial with the BCS. And then the last time Texas, I believe, was 5-0 was 2009, the year they played for the national championship, because they've always kind of blown a tire. Maryland or whoever, or played somebody pretty good, or lost an early Big 12 game.
I was at the 2009 game. That was where Sam Bradford got hurt, and it was close. It was 16-13 game final score. But yeah, this is the first one that has real stakes since that 2018 championship game. And this is the first time both of them have been good. And we'll find out equally good or not come Saturday. But yeah, this should be a good one this week.
What is that stat again about the rankings and all that? Because they've had some ranked matchups. This isn't like this the first time that they haven't been ranked. First, undefeated. Okay, I was going to say, because, they've had some games where they've both been ranked. But, this is the biggest by far of where they have been. They were 1 versus 5 back then. So, this is about as close as that's been, because a lot of the times it was, Oklahoma in the top 10, Texas in the 20s. Sometimes, one of them in the top 10, the other in the teens. A lot of times Texas might not have been ranked in some of those matchups. So, this is easily the highest, I think, anticipation level that you have for that game in 15 or so years. I think that's probably about right. Just, added in all the other parts of the recipe with the last year of the Big 12 and the last Red River Showdown as members of the Big 12, and obviously the implications moving forward. And it's going to be a monster game, and I don't know quite what to expect. Texas had a hell of a win over Kansas, and Oklahoma looked really good once again. I mean, I think that's a team that's, finding its way, as much as we talk about, Baylor with Dave Aranda and like, who are they and all that. Oklahoma had a lot of that last year with Brent Venables, and I think they figured out who they are, and they had a huge explosion this past weekend over Iowa State, a team that they've, struggled with from time to time, and they just blew their doors off. In Texas, had Kansas, it was a close game. Closer than it appeared, though. I think they were pretty much in control of that. Jalen Daniels obviously didn't play, but Texas, was pretty clearly the better team overall when all of that was said and done.
661 yards.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Is like Jalen Daniels didn't play. They threw up 600-plus yards on your defense. So, I mean, there's still that too. But, valiant efforts and whatnot. But, yeah, those two teams have been, pretty much just going week by week, taking care of their business, and I'm looking forward to them now having to see who's going to take their first loss this weekend. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere.
Should it be fun? I am still a little bit leery. By the way, Perfect Cracker, I watched basically the entire game with Iowa State. I was very, Iowa State was running around and through the Oklahoma defense for quite a bit. Now, in the second half, they had less than 100 yards, but the kind of was still there. Brandon Marcello put this up about the new Big 12 teams. They're 1-7 so far. You had Houston lose to Tech. Obviously, UCF blew a tire against Baylor. Kansas beat BYU, and so Cincinnati lost to Oklahoma. But the one loss or the one win is when they both played each other in BYU playing Cincinnati in the win they had on Friday night. So there's that. I don't know what the trend's going to be. Eventually going to play each other more, but there's that from Brandon Marcello. Injuries, go ahead.
Yeah, man, it's 2 weeks in, so
yeah.
Okay, let's see how that goes. And even if it ends up 1-20, they're brand new to the conference. You expected there would be some growing pains. BYU might screw around and end up contending if they just keep handling their business, but. Cincinnati lost their coach last year. Houston, we knew they weren't going to be very good, and I think most predicted, if not West Virginia. Houston looked like to be the worst team on paper, and then UCF, as you said, they very well should have had win number 2 for that little stat right there, but blew the lead. So yeah, that's just growing pains, and I think to be expected somewhat. But right now, I think BYU and UCF obviously off to a better feeling start. Although after this weekend, BYU really feeling like the one that's in the best shape of the 4.
Let's go through some injuries. Baylor's Dave Aranda today confirming that linebacker Mike Smith, the transfer from Liberty, tore his ACL. He's out for the year. That means that Josh White, formerly at LSU and among others, will have to step up and replace him. He was very active, but almost to the point sometimes when he got to make a tackle, he was a little bit not in control and missed a lot of tackles too, but very active, the transfer from Liberty.
No, they're going to miss him.
Yeah.
That's not a good injury for them.
Iowa quarterback Cade McNamara, Brett McMurphy with this one likely will miss the remainder of the season with the leg injury suffered against Michigan State.
The drive for 325 gets a lot harder when you're doing it with a backup quarterback. And, look, they won the game the other night against Michigan State, but it's not like they scored 40 points doing it, and they already put a 0 on the board against Penn State. So Kirk Ferentz better not get used to seeing his son around the office anymore.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the case, and you know what, deservedly so. Based on what we had seen as far as the numbers go, but don't really want to make too many jokes about how putrid that offense has been. It's pretty clear if you've watched Iowa football at all, or if you've just hung around college football message boards. Basically, they're the butt of jokes now going on a while when it comes to that offense, and particularly Brian Ferentz. But take that aside, and I hate it for Cade McNamara. You just hate for one of the bigger names in college football to get hurt, have to be carted off. That's never great. Don't want to see that for anybody. And so, yeah, that's a huge loss for Iowa. They were able to still win, as you said, over a Michigan State team that just seems like they need to get to the offseason already and figure out some things. But, that sucks, and that's a tough blow for an Iowa team that already wasn't, exactly setting the world on fire offensively. So, yeah, we'll see how that impacts them moving forward.
Brew McCoy, who's bounced around quite a bit with programs in college football, the Tennessee wide receiver, ankle injury, had season-ending surgery. He is out for the rest of the year. Here are the Big 12 players of the week. First of all, Jonathan Brooks, 200-plus yards. He has not made people forget Bijan Robinson, because you don't do that. But yet the latest in the great line of the running backs at Texas, and he was spectacular, 200-plus yards, and he's just a great running back, and they've got a cupboard full of them. Adonai Mitchell, the transfer from Georgia, the newcomer of the year. Caden Jenkins, of the week, Caden Jenkins, scoop and score for Baylor that truly gave them the chance, is the defensive player of the week in Texas Tech. Loic Fanoji, the special teams Big 12 football Week 5 award winner for special teams.
Yeah, well, you had questions about Texas. I think that they were smaller than the list was smaller than probably any other team in the Big 12 as far as major question marks. And the one that you might have had up until a couple weeks ago was like, who's going to be the guy in the backfield for them? Who's going to, how's the running back situation going to work? And you've signed some big recruits, and that's one thing, but to see them actually go out there and show it is another thing. And Jonathan Brooks has, taken the charge, and I think the last couple weeks has exploded and pretty clearly become the guy. He was already, but, really looks like the guy now and is really showing it, with his performance on the field. So that's a great development for Texas, that's starting to get going, especially, in time for this OU versus, and then versus the rest of the world the rest of the way. I mean, to get this point at 5-0, to have Brooks step up, to have Ewers playing really sharp, Adonai Mitchell, in a star-studded receiving core, he's incredible. Things are really clicking for them, especially with Brooks getting going. So that makes them just more fierce, and he's definitely deserving. Had a monster game against the Jayhawks. Finoji had 2 huge plays back-to-back for Tech, special teams, and then offensively, I believe, right? Or was it both special teams? He had I think it was both special teams. So anyways, he had the 2 huge plays back-to-back, and then, Caden Jenkins, obviously, with a monster play as well. But, Finojis were like back-to-back massive plays to create some separation in that game for Texas Tech. So
he caught a touchdown pass, but he also blocked the punt, returned it for a touchdown.
He returned it right after. So, I could see where he was special teams because of that block and return.
And had a punt return.
So
he did it all. Here are a couple of nuggets on UT. From John Bianco, their media relations, vice president of media relations. They're one of only 4 teams in the FBS who rank in the top 20 in total offense and total defense. Oregon, Miami, and Georgia are the others. Very well balanced on what they're doing, and their offense always seems to have had weapons and 5 stars or whatever, especially when it comes to skilled positions. But that's a great stat, and averaging 480 yards a game, allowing less than 300. Meanwhile, here's another one. In the win against Kansas, Quinn Ewers, Jonathan Brooks, Adonai Mitchell. Second time in UT history, the Horns have had a 300-yard passer, 200-yard rusher, and 100-yard receiver in the same game. Weapons galore.
Yes, they do. When it comes down to that, for Texas and OU this week, that's going to be my big thing, because I do think that these teams are both playing really well, and they're both playing really confident right now. It's always a weird game, and it gets like some kind of wonky things happen. So if it's weird when it comes down to late, and say it winds up like Notre Dame and Ohio State a couple weeks ago, the difference in Ohio State, I think, late in the game is that they had more stars on offense to make those plays than Notre Dame did. And that might be what separates Texas and OU, but sometimes those things just get completely negated in the Red River game.
Yeah, no, it just seems to me that this could be a shootout, but the difference to me is, and I saw Oklahoma they had to force some turnovers, one early, but I still saw a lot of players running free. A lot of players running free in that game against Iowa State. All right, now, here's the new top 25. 1 through 10. Let's look at the top 10 first. Georgia, Michigan, a stat that we'll give you in a second about their win against Nebraska when they pulverized the Huskers in Lincoln. Texas, Ohio State, and Florida State. That's pretty damn salty, 1 through 5. Penn State, Washington, a little bit closer than people thought in their game with Arizona. Oregon, SC, had a chance to score a bunch of points, and they did against Colorado, but let them back in the game. Got dicey, but not really. And Notre Dame at number 10.
Yeah, Notre Dame had the nice win over Duke. I think Alabama holding strong at 11. They, rumors of their demise might have been too soon, although I still think that SEC West is going to get really unrecognizable by the end of the year. We will
hear from Andrew Monaco, the voice of the Aggies, at 3:45 on that.
But yeah, Notre Dame gutted out that win against Duke, and I mean that's 2 weeks in a row that Notre Dame has played ridiculously physical, tough, bare knuckle brawl type games. And this time they came out on top. And Duke might have lost Riley Leonard for a couple weeks. Now they're off this week, so maybe he can come back a little bit sooner. But how long he's out is going to be a thing. So yeah, I think the top 10 right now is as good of a top 10 as we've seen it in maybe some time.
I mean, you guys know what game was really close? The Georgia game.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Georgia nearly got knocked off. They were able to find a way once again and keep the streak going, but they got tested on Saturday. I think that there's questions about whether or not they're really the best, and I think that that's fair based on what we've seen so far, but there's also a case to say, yeah, they are the best, just they may not have played, as high-profile games just yet or whatever, but they got challenged, to be sure. Michigan, there's a case for them to be the best team in the country. There's a case for Texas to be the best team in the country. I think beyond that, it's like those three. Maybe you throw in like a pack school if you want to say like Oregon or something, I feel like. But Yeah, I mean, based on the way things have gone so far, that's a top 10 that makes a lot of sense, and we're obviously going to see some separation with 7, 8, 9 there coming up. So
Florida State has a right to be mentioned, but then they had that dicey game.
Not number one,
against Boston College.
But also, look, to the two teams they've beaten, also have both lost twice.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Well, I mean, of course, one of them was to them, but like
with LSU.
So yeah, LSU lost this week, and that defense has problems.
Hey, Garrett. I always could think of one thing. I could always think of one thing when it comes to the identity of LSU football is they play really good defense.
Yeah, they usually have some running backs, and that's apparently not the case this year.
All right, Michigan destroyed Nebraska. Matt Rule, I listened to part of his post game, and he was like, people were talking about physicality. He didn't want to go there. You could tell he was shook because his team just did not compete. Didn't mean they didn't try. They had no chance. Michigan had no turnovers. They had no penalties, and they punted one time in that destruction of the Huskers in Lincoln. They do look the part.
Michigan's probably not going to have their signature win until if they do, in fact, beat Penn State. But I mean, that's going to be a signature win for whoever wins that game. But they and Georgia kind of have a similar path in the way of them. It shouldn't change your mind about them really that much, although Georgia and Auburn was eye-opening this week. But Michigan has the best offensive and defensive line, I would say, collectively of anybody in the country. It's why I picked them early this year to win the national title, because when it comes down to the big dudes, Michigan has those guys. They've got them all over the place. They've got depth on both sides of that, and that's how you really win national titles. And they've got it even maybe, in my opinion, better than Georgia right now, which is saying a lot. And so if they're going to beat teams like Nebraska, 45-7, just because Nebraska could blitz 11 and those guys could block 5 and they could seemingly pick it all up.
Yeah, and then have people open wherever they wanted to throw the football or break long runs, as they just were dominant in that game. Now let's break here. We have Andrew Monaco, voice of A&M, at 3:45, because I want to get back to a couple of stories. One of them, there's already been a couple of teams who have fired their coordinator or two. And then there's a note about Michigan State losing an NIL group. And a tweet from a Buffaloes fan from Colorado, just a fan, but it was, when I read that, I was like, we need to discuss that on Monday during the show. We appreciate those of you who are watching online, Sikkim365 app or Sikkim365.com. Also, of course, on YouTube, 365 Sports, and so much more. There are great games this week, including 2 in the state of Texas, between Texas and OU in Dallas, and then A&M hosting Alabama in College Station. We'll discuss those and more. This is 365 Sports. I received a few text messages from Brian Bauer. He's the owner of Waco Custom Marketplace during the game. And he's been frustrated. He's a big Baylor fan. He sent me a picture at the end of the day when they had come back from 28 points down. And it was a picture of his daughter in a crib, sound asleep with the game on in the background. And he was talking about, basically she will know, she has no idea the intensity of what watching Baylor has been for me. He's a huge Baylor fan. Love Brian Bauer and the family. They own a company that is great for tailgating. Baylor at home on Saturday night against Texas Tech. So if you're looking for what you need when it comes to the charcoal, pellet fuel, if you want what they have when it comes to product, the full-fledged, full-service bakery and butcher shop, and then also what you need when it comes to even from canned goods to whatever else, seasonings, marinades, cold beer, cold wine. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoke barbecue.
Next in line.
During Jeep Adventure Days, save big on 2023 Jeep models like the Grand Cherokee Limited with values up to $5,500. Or 10% off MSRP on new Jeep Gladiators on all trim levels. Or 10% off MSRP on a new Jeep Compass at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
All right, here we go. Indiana fired their offensive coordinator, Walt Bell, have failed to score more than 17 points for the 3rd time against a major conference opponent. Georgia Tech demoted Andrew Thacker and named Kevin Shearer as the sole defensive coordinator. Those were a couple of the coordinator jobs that were changed over the weekend at Indiana and Georgia Tech.
Yeah, Walt Bell's been fired twice in less than 2 years now. He was the head coach at UMass and got let go, and then took that job at Indiana and he got let go.
Yeah, they've been fortunate to actually keep a couple of their games relatively close. So I guess the good news is the defense is okay, but your offense can't score enough points to make it matter. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is now in week 5, about time we're going to start seeing a lot of those types of moves and get a couple more weeks in, and we're going to really see that hot seat talk crank up for a lot of head coaches, I would think, as well. But, yeah, this is that time of year where you've got enough examples now to kind of know what's what, and whether your defense is just, it's the opponents, or it's like, no, there's an actual problem going on, or there's a chemistry issue, or it's just not getting the job done. And so, there's going to be a lot more of that coming down the pipeline.
There have been so many major job turnovers, though, in the last couple of years. Like right now, when it comes to hot seat talk, there's not like a big program out there that you would say anybody's on the hot seat.
Thanks to Neil Brown in West Virginia. Mountaineers going and winning a bunch of games.
Take him off.
Right.
Take him off. I mean.
Yeah, I think that's still a tricky thing for Mountaineers fans, and they can tell me that I'm wrong and give me the real deal. But I don't think that everybody's like sold still on Neil Brown and longevity and all of that. But you can't deny winning. Like, what's the guy going to do to save his job? Go out and win games, and they're winning games. and it's not pretty, but it's getting the job done. And I'm sure some would like to see like a more explosive offense or, something along those lines, but you can't deny the results. And he's done exactly up until this point what he's needed to do to cool off some of that talk. So, yeah, I don't know, West Virginia fans out there, is the hot seat completely off? I feel like it's still too early because, what if they just lost 7 in a row to lose, to close out the season? But it doesn't appear they're going to do that, to your point.
They've got Houston and Oklahoma State in the next 2. Those teams are struggling mightily, and West Virginia's playing with a lot of confidence and feel like they can do things that they didn't maybe think they could do. They still have Cincinnati and Baylor on the schedule. I mean, look, they're 3 toughest games are going to be right in a row, and we still don't know about BYU completely yet, but and we just saw UCF, completely fall apart against Baylor.
No.
So
Baylor, we're not sold on them yet.
They've lost one game to a top 10 team at Penn State.
I think it's cooled off his hot seat. I don't think though it's convinced the fan base that oh no, this is the direction, and we're going to be all good no matter what. Now, I just think there's still some of that question, and rightfully so. But no, absolutely, that doesn't need to be the focus. It does need to be on the fact that they're just doing what they're doing right now, and all the rest of it will come as it comes with what they do the rest of the way. But just as a West Virginia fan trying to enjoy this season and seeing them voted last and wondering, not being sold on Neil Brown and how he does things, to see them do what they've done up until this point, it surprised me. It's been impressive that they just, been going about their business, whether Garrett Green's available or not, or whether Nico Marchiol's available, whatever the quarterback situation is, however the offense is playing, whoever gets hurt on defense, they are still just winning games, and that's all that matters in the long run.
All right, here's one other note. This happened to be just something I caught. From GoBuffs3 on Twitter, outsiders won't want to hear this, but Colorado deserves more than equal revenue sharing when they join the Big 12 next year. In terms of TV ratings, none of the other programs in that conference are even close. Next year's Colorado team will be better and even a bigger draw.
Well, you got to come in and win it first. And then, but that's not the deal.
That's one of the things.
That's not the deal.
Yeah, I get the excitement. And again, the numbers are huge, but you wonder how much that continues to sustain itself now that there's back-to-back losses, despite what was a very frenetic ending to the game against USC.
I think the TV ratings are probably going to be there for Deion no matter what, but again, the TV ratings will also start to change when Deion's team is up against a game that matters in the college football playoff. So those are the things that will affect it. Early season ratings, yes, that's true. But hey, man, you just came back. Let's not get over your skis. And what if he takes another job in 3 years? And the ratings go back down? Do they give that money back?
I was going to say there would have to be a Deion clause attached to that for one, but I'm not even entertaining the idea because it's a dumb idea. Yeah. But it's also, all due respect, truly, go Buffs 3, saying that they deserve this isn't Walter Cronkite or name a person, name a personality. This isn't Shannon Sharp or it's Lee Corso or Kirk Herbstreit or Go Buffs 3 thinks that the Buffs deserve more money than everybody when they get in the conference based on the first month of the season. So, I don't know that he's totally unbiased with that opinion, and we could cherry pick lots of dumb fan tweets. But no doubt they've set the college football world on fire ratings-wise. They played in some very entertaining games, and their future is very bright for sure.
Walter Cronkite wouldn't get Twitter. I don't understand Twitter.
All right, I'll get to the Michigan State NIL story a little bit later on. Andrew Monaco, voice of the Aggies on A&M. They took care of their business. And Alabama, they were very good against Mississippi State. And now they play again. We know what this series has been like. A&M's gotten them. Back in the day, Johnny Manziel, but just a couple of years ago, remember? And then, when it was recently. And then, of course, last year, they're throwing the ball in the end zone to maybe win in Tuscaloosa. We'll have Andrew Monaco. He's next, voice of the Aggies on 365 Sports. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, used to be. 1 out of every 3 or 4 men, it could be you, have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. One that gets most of the attention is sex drive, ED, that. But also it could affect your energy, your sleep habits, how you focus, how you feel. And Dr. Petty and his staff want to help you out because they'll take care of the original meeting, or at least you getting your blood done. Call them at website, pettyclinicalot.com. You can get the email and phone number. They will set up the lab work. They will take care of it for you. Get the results, look at the results, and if your testosterone level is too low, they can put you in a program to increase it and help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
Right call can make all the difference on and off the field. I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. When it's time for a new car, truck, or SUV, Bird Colgin Ford is the right call. Come check out our award-winning lineup of best-selling models in their class, like the Mustang, Explorer, Expedition, F-150, and Super Duty. Make the right call for your next vehicle at Bird Colgin Ford. Bird Colgin Ford proudly supports Baylor Athletics. Sic 'em Bears.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
A lot of attention on Saturday up in Dallas, the Red River rivalry with Texas and Oklahoma, first time since 2011, both undefeated. But also there's a game in College Station just a few hours away, about the time that Texas-OU game wraps up, where Alabama and Texas A&M meet at Kyle Field. It will be rocking, and we're joined by the voice of Texas A&M, Andrew Monaco, here with us on 365 Sports. What do you think, Andrew? I know there's the loss early to Miami, who's ranked in the top 20, but what do you think the anticipation is going to be? Will it be like maybe the most recent one?
Yeah, I think so. When you consider the last two times that they played, it came down to the final play. 2 years ago, Seth Small kicks the field goal. Last year, Alabama makes the play as the Aggies down 24-20. One final shot. They break up the pass intended for Evan Stewart. I think Kyle Field will be absolutely electric on Saturday. They have been camping out the students for ticket pull since the ULM game. And then after Auburn, And we were on the road last week in Arkansas, so kind of a little bit of camping out in tents. And it seems each of the sports teams have taken the opportunity to feed the students who have been waiting for ticket pull for this Saturday's game. I think it's going to be absolutely another special one in what's becoming a nice rivalry in the SEC.
Andrew, Max Johnson came in and played really well against Auburn. He played okay the other day. He had turnovers. What do you think Max Johnson, like, where are we going to find who Max Johnson is?
I think you see a little of it. I think automatically you see the preparation and the reason why Max Johnson is something special. He's not a backup. He's just another starter, and give Jimbo Fisher a lot of credit. See, Max is a quarterback's son. So you know that you have to be ready. At a moment notice, you can come in. He makes Connor Wigman better. The relationship obviously is there. They both went through some trials last year. And what you saw was his preparation against Auburn, and the offense was humming. You saw after Arkansas had the ball for over 8 minutes on their first drive, the Aggies answered with a touchdown. And again, I think the tempo is the same. I think that respect is the same. Can't throw the pick, and especially not a pick six, and you have to protect the football. So there's always ways to get better, but for someone, Jimbo uses the phrase saddle time for a quarterback. Max Johnson has saddle time in the SEC. This will be the third time that he faces Alabama, and he does it probably with the most dynamic offense that he's had if you compare them to the 2 years that he had at LSU when the Tigers took on the Tide.
Andrew, looking at another part of that offense with the running game, obviously they've had a really great string of running backs over the past few years, but Le'Veon Moss, the lead guy right now, I know they had over 200 yards as a team the other day, but how have you seen that, especially with the change at quarterback, just the running game evolving over the course of these first 5 weeks?
Yeah, it's gotten better, and I think that's a credit to the offensive line. But, you know, they do have three, and look, it's hard to replace the Devon A-Chain, and we're finding out that you need three, right?
Right.
for what Devon did. But, I mean, Amari Daniels has a ton of experience. Ruben Owens is the special one, right? He's the freshman from El Campo, and he's going to be a really good one. But Le'Veon's the one that's been around the longest. The thing with Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino is you've got to be able to run the ball, totally get it. But you have to pass protect, and you have to be able to catch out of the backfield. And at times, if you noticed against Arkansas, Le'Veon and Ruben Owens, or Le'Veon and Amari, they were part of the empty backfield. They were part of the 5 receivers that were on the field. So they can do that. There's a size and a strength that Le'Veon possesses. Amari Daniels put on more muscle, but he didn't lose his speed, which was impressive. Ruben is another one. After one of the touchdowns that he scored, I believe it might have been ULM, there was a shot of Jimbo on the sideline, and he called for 2, and he said, 2, you know how much we love you, don't you? He said, you missed pass protection, and we still handed you the football, and he scored a touchdown. But that's what goes into being a running back in this offense, is you have to do it all if you're going to get the carries. But Le'Veon, 97 yards 2 weeks ago against an Auburn defense. 107, his first career 100-yard rushing performance. That comes at Arkansas. To do it against SEC defenses has to be pretty special for that young man.
Andrew, what's been the tone of Jimbo Fisher? I know he does the weekly show. You do a lot of different things for A&M, not just the broadcast. But have you noticed is he more calm? What is his demeanor now compared to this time a year ago?
A year ago, it's really a shame. The injuries were piling up. You'll remember we used 3 quarterbacks last year, lost an all-SEC center at Bryce Foster, had just lost Anaya Smith in week 4 to an ankle injury, so he would be out. And there were players in and out of the lineup, and having to use freshmen, I say this, baptism by fire, but I think they've been forged by that fire. I think they understand that they can play on this level. Probably sooner than what Jimbo wanted to do. I think he wanted to put them in for the 10 or 20 snaps, but instead they were playing 40, 50 snaps. And you guys know, after that comfort factor, when you get too many snaps, that's when some of the mistakes will happen. But I really think they were forged by that. He likes this team, I'm not going to lie. He has the experience. You can't rush experience, and that was the problem last year, is they were caught with a lack of experience. But I think the guys who came back, lead the maturity, lead these teams with that experience. And they're really fortunate. It's at each position. Anias at wide receiver and obviously punt return. Layden Robinson on the offensive line. McKinley Jackson on that killer defensive line. Edgerrin Cooper and Chris Russell had a chance to walk. They did, and they came back, and Damani Richardson on the back end. And Max Wright at tight end. Guys who are likable, leaders, I think they go across both the offense and the defense. And when you're the first guy in the rep and you're doing it right, then it leads for that practice period to be really good and it moves. Jimbo knows he's got a good team. He's not going to ever shy away from that. And he's told this team that. But after Miami and then even at halftime at Auburn, he said, look, stop playing on eggshells and turn it loose. And you can see this defense is playing as well as it's played all season long. And this offense has been really good. They will take shots down the field for sure. And they've got some talent to go get those deep balls. So it's been nice. And I think the last couple of weeks you've seen them play some complimentary football. Have they played their best? No. And it kind of frightens me. They play a complete game. Look out.
That Miami game, and a couple of things kind of sticks out to me in that there are probably teams in years past that would have let that undo them in some of these other games because of having that one and the momentum so early in it on the road and then it going down the way that it did and some of the mistakes they made that they hadn't been making. But after that one, what have you seen turn that allowed them not to let Miami beat them twice, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a great point. You never let one loss run into two, right? So they focused on themselves. Look, they did not like that feeling. I thought they got out physical in that game, and I think they would admit that also. 33 points on the road should win you a game. 48 is not going to win you a game. I don't care where you're playing when you give up that many. Instead of, and this is what I've liked in adversity, instead of them saying, oh, here we go again, now they say, look, trust in yourself. Let's trust in one another. What's the reason why we all came back? What's the reason why we want to do something special with this group and got back to work? I'm going to tell you, it was actually a good week of practice leading into Miami. Miami was even better than Texas A&M that day. Go back to the focus. And again, I think it is that, guys, you're good. And I think that message was reinforced to this team. You are good. Go play. Go do this. Dinged a little bit on some key players, but Miami took it to them. And the feeling was, look, we went through this last year and we said we're not going to go 5-7. We're not going to have this same feeling. And I think you had leaders step up and say to one another, hey, let's change this. You're going to hear this phrase a lot, I think, through the rest of this year. Change the narrative. Well, Jimbo was real honest. He said, you didn't change the narrative. If you're going to keep going to the same script, you're going to get the same result. What are you going to do? And a lot of times he will say it, these players will say it. Look in the mirror. That's the only time you can be true to yourself. Are you doing everything that you possibly can? McKinley Jackson just said it today in the media availability. It's 11 guys, but everybody's got to do 1/11th of their job. And you're seeing that defense. They're all doing their 1/11th. On that offense, that offensive line is doing their job. I think that's the thing. The success against ULM, it wasn't about playing Louisiana Monroe. It was about getting back to Texas A&M's identity. And I think you're seeing that identity emerge of being a physical team, for being a conditioned team, for being a team that really wants to play all 60 minutes. And the opponent saying 60 is enough. We've had enough. You kind of want to take the will out of other teams. And I kind of saw that the last couple of weeks towards the end of the Auburn-Arkansas game. And that's because I think the Aggies have played more and more to their identity.
Andrew, how impressed have you been with Torian York, the true freshman from Temple, SEC Freshman of the Week a week ago? I know he's a leader already on defense. I mean, starting right out of the gates, helping call plays and run the defense. He was a Baylor commit at one time. We watched him multiple times just down the road at Temple High School. But it just seems like he's come in and made a major splash right away.
He's always started, right? He started 4 years in high school, correct?
I believe
is
so,
my
yes.
understanding. Mm-hmm. He's always started. So you're asking a freshman middle linebacker, and you're right. You've got to make every call. He's made every call. At no time was there any indecision. You know, in one of the coaches' nights as we go around the state, some of the fans will ask Jimbo, "Hey, when you recruit a kid, do they ask about starting?" And Jimbo has said, "Every great player that I've ever had has never asked me if they're going to start." That's how confident they are in their ability. They know they're going to start, right? That's Torian York. But more than anything, Jimbo has said, he's 18 going on 30. That's how mature he is. But when you talk to his teammates about him, there's so much admiration. They love the way they play. There is that trust in him. I think he's something special. To be an SEC Defensive Player of the Week is something special. I think he knows that his defensive line is special, that is allowing him to make plays. Now, it's one thing for that front four. You still have to make that tackle, but I'm telling you what, 21 is always around the ball. And that's another change, I think, for A&M. Deeper, more talented linebackers. At times they were thin in years past. They're not. And Torian York, I think, is going to have a great career at Texas A&M.
Andrew, I had mentioned this leading up to the season, that maybe because the spotlight was not so bright on them like it was a year ago because of the recruiting class, that maybe that was a good thing. The expectations were kind of, not quite the same. I'm not saying inside the program, and maybe that's allowed them to just go about their business with so much, just do who they need to be who they need to be, and not be worried about getting caught up in all the hype. And I think that may have helped them as well.
No, I totally agree with you. But here's the but, right? At some point, you've got to learn to play with that low number next to your name, right?
Yep.
But they weren't ready for that last year. The expectations were too big. Now with this group, I think they're fine. I think it's, hey, you know what? Underestimate us. I think that gives them a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. But at some point, that does change. No, I think you're right. And I think, the win, I said this, the win over LSU last year at the end of 2022 had to be their first game of 2023. They were mad that there wasn't another game. Now, they had the right to be mad, but they put themselves in that position to not have another game. There was no bowl game. They didn't win enough. So what are you going to do about it? And that's the work that you see in the offseason. That's the work that they did when you're not in camp, whether it's spring or fall. What are you doing on your own? But no, you make a great point. Look, so they were asked already today, hey, you guys aren't ranked. And the thought being, we don't deserve to be. We haven't, in their minds, we haven't done anything. All we've done is play the first 5 weeks. We're 4-1. Are we still getting better? That becomes the most important thing. But no, I totally agree with you. It's like, yeah, I thought being ranked preseason number 6, gosh, that's great, but they never played like it. And I don't know if that was part of that group that's no longer here. I mean, yes, it's the number 1 recruiting class. Yes, a number of people left. But yes, it's still an impactful class that I think even with all the guys who leave, that's number 4. And you're seeing the effect of that class. Evan Stewart, Noah Thomas, Bryce Anderson, Walter Nolan. Those guys are now the impact guys. It didn't pay off in year 1, but those guys aren't here for just 1 year. These guys are here for the 4 years, or if you're going to go to Sunday, some of them want to play it's just 3 now, right? They want to play 3 years and get to the NFL. But you have now they're becoming impact guys in their second and possibly third year, and the effectiveness of the transfer portal, I think they did that better in this offseason than they had in the past. They were able to fill in some holes with Josh DeBerry, one of the starting corners, with Geronte Davis coming from Jackson State as part of that linebacking crew. I think that has really helped them. But you've got to have those dynamite recruiting classes. And you know what? It's something Jimbo has done very well for 6 seasons. They're no longer out recruiting Oklahoma State and Houston. They're out recruiting Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. That's what he's really done, I think, with he and his staff, the recruiting in the offseason.
Okay, so then how does A&M get over the historical hump that they win when there's no expectations, but when there are, they don't? Because, Andrew, I've been following this team for my whole life, and that's just what they are. Like, it's so weird that happens to them.
It was the November swoon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And November is what you remember, right? And all those years, they would be great. And they would be maybe number 5 in the college football playoff and then go lay an egg at Ole Miss, right? Something like that. You've got to trust in yourself, and you've got to have that. You've got to have that talent, and I think you've got to play consistent football. I think it's a combination of, and again, fans hate to hear this, but it's got to be the preparation on Monday through Friday to play on Saturday. You can't say that, I didn't run that play right on Tuesday, but you know what? When it matters, I'll do it on Saturday. No, you're not. That you have to do it every single time to do it, because when the crux of the game is there, you're reverting to what you've done in the past. So you can do it 11 out of 12 times. You got to do it that 12th time. And when you have players like Shamar Turner on the defensive line that Jimbo says at every practice, every snap, he's playing like it's for a national championship. When you have all 11 on defense doing that and all 11 on offense doing that, the confidence in yourself says we don't care who we're playing to our standard. That's the difference. And I'm going to say this. That's what Alabama does. That's what Georgia's doing now. That's what Clemson's done in the past. That's what Ohio State has done. I think Jimbo Fisher is bringing that here. He's got more players who are doing that, more ballers, as he calls them. I think you have more of that. Once you do that, that's the standard for whoever's in this program and then whoever comes into this program going forward. Look, Nick Saban did it. He did it better than anyone. You're going to play as a junior, as a senior. Freshman, sophomore, you're going to sit, wait your turn. All those guys who may not have liked that as freshmen or sophomores, well, they're playing in the NFL and realize I was prepared. The goal is not to get to the NFL. The goal is to stay in the NFL. Look, the goal is also to win on the collegiate level. But when you have the confidence that you can do that, it doesn't matter who the opponent is. It matters what your standard is. Then that's when you realize you can play as a favorite, an underdog, but hopefully you're going to be so good you're always going to be the favorite, and you're ready for everybody's best shot.
Andrew, great stuff, and we appreciate your time. Enjoy the week. I know you will. It is Alabama, Texas A&M on Saturday afternoon at Kyle Field in College Station. A heck of a matchup. Tomorrow, by the way, we'll have Barry Trammell. Rod Babers will be on this week. Roger Wallace will be on this week, and others on the Texas OU rivalry that gets back up again and going on Saturday at 11 o'clock at the Cotton Bowl. When we come back, Dave Aranda, after Baylor's miraculous comeback win against UCF, it doesn't cover up the warts and all the bumps and bruises, but it's better than if you'd lost, and that's next on 365 Sports. I just mentioned bumps and bruises. Ideal MRI can help you with more than bumps and bruises. You might have something that really is painful in your knee or in your lower back or your shoulder, somewhere in your body, and you don't like it. You don't sleep well. It's hard to get through the day without some sort of pain. You can't even sit down without an issue. And if that's happened to you and your doctor has been talking to you about it, then Ideal MRI can be an answer, a solution for you. Because what they can find out, Central Texas Marketplace off I-35 in Waco, is they can find out the evidence of what is wrong inside of your body, whether it's a muscle or a ligament or something else. And then they can also get an MRI, and there's nothing wrong, which means your doctor has to find another way to help you feel better. Ideal MRI is $497 or less every single time, not once at $497 and then $1,500, and the average MRI is $1,100. $497 or less every single time at idealmri.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist's office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Baylor football coach Dave Aranda with me, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. So I'm watching that thing go down, and I'm like, how am I going to handle this with Coach Aranda on Monday? 21-0, 28-7, 35-7. How did you keep belief? How do you as a coach keep belief that you could come back from such a deficit?
Appreciate that. It was every play we'd have, 9 guys do the right thing, 2 guys do the wrong thing, 10 guys do the right thing, 1 guy do the wrong thing. And you could just see that we weren't ourselves. And so it wasn't so much that. It was like, let's just be us. And, we keep saying this practice thing to the game thing, and it's happening again. And then it just gets to be where it's you want to put your fist up to the air and just yell out like a primal scream. It gets to that point where it's like, dude, come on. And so just, not doing that, but trying to continue to get guys to settle down and see what they see and get their eyes on their keys and go through their progressions and slow it down, and so we just kept, there's 8 guys doing the right thing, then there's 9 guys, then there's 10 guys, and at the end we're able to get 11.
You, at the end of the game, in the post game, I believe you said you were happy for the players, for the coaches, for Baylor Athletics. You didn't say for Dave Aranda.
Right.
Why not?
I feel empty, on Sundays we have a family dinner, so we have the coaches' families, their kids. We have a fair amount of young coaches, so there's just babies everywhere up here. And then we have all of our different departments are still here, so recruiting and everyone's here. So we all meet in this players' lounge, and there's food and everything. And so this was after the Texas game. The families are coming up, and I'm walking to greet them. And as I walk to greet them, a couple of them had put their eyes down and then brought their eyes back up. So that just makes me feel horrible, And so I'm thankful for the win for them.
After the LSU National Championship, you had some sort of a quote that said you were empty. You're like, is this all there is to it, or is this it? And that you wanted something new. Are you enjoying this?
I am, yeah. I look at like a Monterey Baldwin. I look at, I look at the growth with Monterey, and he is a transformed person, and he's a transformed player. And, talking to our coaches, in order for us to teach them, we have to reach them, man, and that's a lot of work. And, but it means everything, and that's the most important thing. And you look at like a Matt Jones and just the 2 games that he's put in back-to-back, and this game in particular is an amazing game, and he's just getting better and better and better. And so there's just guys that have just totally just transformed their lives and just their way of doing things, and it's just so cool. And so seeing that is really cool. It helps that you win.
The high school coach at Shoemaker's, Toby Foreman, Coach, and I sent him a text a couple of hours after the game that said it was great to see Monterey produce and play. And he said, well, the reason he hasn't been was Monterey's fault. And you had kind of brought up some immaturity factor or whatever. What has he done differently? And by the way, he also said, Toby said, and I love the way Dave Aranda handles his football team and what he demands from the players.
I appreciate that. I give Dallas Baker has been amazing, and he continues to be. I just, if my son Ronan were to play and he plays receiver, I would want him to play for Dallas. But I think with Monterey, you end up having to make a decision. You have to make the decision and I think what we can do as coaches is accept you as you are and love you as you are. And then I think you have to believe that. And then once you believe that, then it's crazy how once that happens, there's a willingness to change once you're kind of accepted. And I think that happened. And usually you have to go down before you go up, and that's been the journey with Monterey, and that's been the journey with a few other folks, and myself included. And so I just think that guys sticking together while we're doing all that is usually the things that you remember when all of this is kind of long gone. You
lost your voice?
Yeah.
Is that from trying to scream all your way back from 35-7, or just sometimes it's going to happen 2 or 3 times in the year?
No, I thought there's fight throughout. We blocked the field goal, and there's those are the things. I think at the end of the game, it's cool to see. But when you're fighting, when it's just you and there's no one else, that's when it's pretty cool.
Blake Shapen, I thought everyone can look at everything he did. One, get back on the field, but there was the run at the end of the game that was on 3rd and 7, and he got smashed from both sides. I'm surprised he didn't cough up the football. There was the run, I think, against Texas State when he got smashed, and that's maybe not what he would have done last year. You've brought up the leadership throughout the offseason. How much of a difference does he make?
It's huge. Yeah, he spoke to the team Friday night, and so we have a team meeting Friday night, and he spoke and was just really strong. Full attention, eyes were on him, and was really direct. And I don't know. I should probably have him speak more. And so, he was on it. And, it's one of those things to where Blake has been, we've talked about guys that have gone down and come back up. And so Blake has made that journey. And so he knows, all that goes into these wins, and just how hard it is to win, and how much you have to sacrifice, and just all of it. And I think, to be honest, I think we have some young players that learned that Saturday, and we've been trying to teach them that. And I think Blake's a great example of what it looks like. And I just know his play just motivated so many people. His words on Friday and throughout the summer were something, but his play on Saturday is a whole other thing. And I think together, just what a great leader we're having right now.
It would be different if you had lost or made a comeback and still lost, or they kicked a field goal. But does 36-35 erase the warts, the blemishes, all of that? And does that mean the players understand they got pretty fortunate, but they earned the way to come back and win the game?
Yes, yeah, it doesn't erase any of it. I think, or I know we have to be way better. And just I think we were talking just a while ago about setting edges in the very first play of the game, and just those things. We cannot live that way. And right now we're living like that too much. And, it's big on us for coaches to find a way. If we keep doing these same things and we get these same results, then it's on us. And we have to find a better way to get across what we need to get across. And it could be playing different guys. It could be teaching in a different way. We're looking at all of those right now. It is a critical time. This is a critical game.
Texas Tech, Joey McGuire, lots of your former staff are with them, Baylor staff with them. Is this an awkward meeting, or is this an awkward series now?
No. I've got a lot of respect for Joey. I've got respect for the staff, their friends, and then a lot of the players I know over there too. And so, it's one of those things where I want them to do well. I want to see them be happy and have success, and they're good dudes, and I'm happy that they have an opportunity to do the things they want to do and how they want to do it and all that. Not this week, not this week.
Dave, how do you motivate with a personality that we've discussed before, which is not yell and scream and jump on stuff, and how do you think you motivate?
I appreciate that. The staff and the players have to feel that I care, and I do care, and so I have to make it be known to them that it's real, and that I see, I think when, for example, if someone does something good, generally people notice it and they say something. When someone does something bad, generally they notice it and they criticize it. So right there's the ability to see, hey, here's someone that's trying. Here's someone that's taking the coaching and is trying to get something right, but is struggling with it. And in his mind, it's a tug of war of, should I just do what I want to do, or should I try to what these coaches are saying and I don't get it? And like, you have to pay attention to that and notice that and get to wherever that level is. And then if you can sit with that player there, and then you can build him up, and then he sees that he's seen, and he's not by himself, and then I think what ends up happening is he starts playing for you because you're with him. And so that whole thing's the thing, and it takes interest and time and all of it, but I feel like we have that on this team, and so I don't know. I've always done that, though. So it's just transferred over to now this role.
Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach, Texas Tech on Saturday night. This is 365 Sports.
Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Dave Aranda. More 365 Sports coming up. But first, let me tell you about Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, over right now on Highway 6. There are mounds of dirt, roads all torn up. They're redoing Highway 6. They're expanding it. A lot of construction going on. But behind the piles of dirt and over where it's always been is Richard Carr, where right now qualified buyers can save over $7,000 on new 2023 GMC Sierra 1500s, and qualified buyers can finance for 0.9% with dozens of Sierras on the lot. Richard Carr currently has the inventory, the pricing, and the financing to get you in a new GMC Sierra today. And if you're military or first responder, you can also save an additional $500. Those are just some of the deals they've got going on right now to make that effort to get over to the dealership with all the chaos going on around it worth it for you, the customer. And that's the Richard Carr way. As over 24 years in Central Texas, they've built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. But right now, they don't only have offers on new vehicles. They've also got plenty of pre-owned cars and trucks on the lot as well and in stock. The financing goal, always 100% credit approval. They say yes when others say no, but they've also got that award-winning service department. So whether you're in need of tires or an oil change or some body work done on your vehicle, and you're not in the market to buy a brand new or pre-owned vehicle, just get the one that you're in worked on. Well, that service department cannot be beat on tires, and they offer a price match guarantee on the lowest price comparable tires in town. So service your car or truck with the people you can count on at Richard Carr. Run by proud Central Texans, run by proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
On the chat room, Dustin Archambault, the way Shapen played against Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game against Knowles defense, I sort of figured he'd do something special at Baylor. That game had to be a lot of pressure on him. Yeah, he that first half especially, and then he got hurt and it wasn't quite the same, but he was spectacular in the Big 12 championship game. And then we know that 2022 was a struggle, and then this year he only played for a little bit against Texas State and then came back and played. I'll tell you this, there's 2 runs this year. Against Texas State, he was hammered at the goal line on what would have been the south side of the stadium and took a big-time hit. And then, of course, the end of the game on the 3rd down scramble that led to the game-winning field goal. I mean, if he would have lost the ball or his helmet or his mind, I wouldn't have been surprised because that was very, very violent. But he held on to the football, and he's taken some of those hits that kind of remind me of the Charlie Brewer runs at times. But everybody saying that he was the difference, despite the fact even with him starting, they were down 35-7.
Well, I thought early in the game, and when he was just getting pummeled by a defense that eventually got over on by running the ball. He was just getting pummeled, and I know that they're going to have to. Their focus is on running the ball, but if you don't get any yards on first and second down, he's got to throw on third down, and he's just going to be under duress. That's something that they've got to figure out down the line. One of those things I'm worried about them not being able to completely fix. But, look, it was a pretty simple recipe for the comeback, and I credit Jeff Grimes for this. Look, the only way that they were going to be able to do that was by getting the ball to the playmakers, and that was Richard Reese and Monterey Baldwin. And Richard Reese in particular hasn't gotten that many carries in a game this year. And then all of a sudden you see last year's Big 12 Freshman of the Year get the ball and be able to make plays like he did, and the offense changes. So get Richard Reese the ball.
Yeah, I mean, he has, 16 carries, I think, and he had not had that many so far this year. Did you even ask Miranda about that?
No, it was asked during the press conference about him, yeah.
Which I think I don't even remember what he said.
I had that note down because you asked me, but he discussed that. And we saw Reese play a lot in that game.
Well, I mean, he mattered, so, that's another thing. You're like, what's been wrong up to this point? No Shapen, and then Richard Reese isn't even playing or a primary back. Dom Richardson's dealing with an injury, but he had a couple crucial carries in that game, despite the fumble that, obviously could have been called the other way. Dawson Pendergrass had a couple big runs in that game. The only thing is all due respect, that was against UCF's defense. Now what do you do against the rest of the league's defenses when it comes to running the football? Because what was the one thing that I was saying last week about Baylor? If they can't run the football against UCF, then that's going to be like fire alarms everywhere of like, oh gosh, this thing's even worse off than we thought. Because that's been UCF's weakness, is stopping the run. So that they could do that was a good sign. But yeah, to see Richard Reese in particular step up and have the biggest game he's had this year, it came at a terrific time for them as well. So let's see if they can continue that. But that was definitely progress in the right direction.
All right, here are the Big 12 games. Here's the schedule for this week. And then we're going to get to the bangers too, Garrett. It's Kansas State at Oklahoma State, ESPN Friday night. And then you have the Texas OU game, UCF at Kansas. So UCF has to turn right around and play a team that's angry.
And look, I don't know what the deal is with John Rice Plumlee. He was warming up, and he was in
I think
uniform.
said that he didn't want to have him go in there without practicing. Basically, was the issue that I think it boiled down to was he just hadn't practiced, and they didn't want to just throw him out there willy nilly like that. But yeah, he's going to be back. He's back, and he could have played technically versus Baylor, but they held him out.
Texas Tech at Baylor. That's the game where you wonder whoever wins, are they going to end up being a bowl team? And if you don't, you still have a chance, but obviously digging a hole again. And then TCU at Iowa State, Frogs in desperate need of a win. Their third quarter, and what West Virginia did was tie them up like a bunch of pretzels, and just Chandler Morris had a very difficult second half. And give West Virginia credit. They're gonna make people play that way if they can. They have a chance to win all the time. Now, they could get into a shootout with somebody, but they block a couple of punts or had some special teams plays. They just look like a team that's going to win games because they're going to keep it down, the scoring down.
Well, TCU won close games last year. They lost 2 games by a total of 6 points this year. So there's the difference right there in last year to this year for TCU. They're still a good team, but the difference between good and great is often winning the close ones. And right now, they haven't done that.
Well, that horseshoe got removed from their backside or left with all of the great NFL players that they lost and the all-time talents like Max Duggan that they lost as well. I mean, I gave them the benefit of the doubt and thought that transfer portal era, you could just kind of plug and play some of those guys, but there was just too many of them. Losing Steve Avila on the offensive line, that's massive and doesn't probably get as much attention as Max Duggan or Quentin Johnston, but they lost guys everywhere, all over the place, basically. And defensively, not as much, but still lost a Travius Hodges Tomlinson. And so that's a Thorpe Award winner right there. So, yeah, it was probably asking too much, even in the portal era, for TCU to be able to plug all those holes. But still a bit surprised they've already taken a couple of losses this early on. I wasn't necessarily expecting that. I didn't expect them to lose to West Virginia. But again, like you said, that's a credit to West Virginia. And, it's a work in progress for Sonny Dykes and company. They're kind of in a weird spot right now. And last year, they just got every possible up until the Big 12 title game. Like everything that could kind of technically go their way sort of went their way. And this year, that's not been the case. And they're not as good, just as a team in general. So, whether that's the players or the coaching changes as well. Garrett Riley not being the guy anymore there at OC. It's all added up. And now they find themselves in a much different situation than they were in a year ago when it was the magical ride. But yeah, that was awesome for West Virginia. And I know we'll kind of, probably get more into the games too and like review them throughout the week, but a big win for BYU on Friday night against Cincinnati. That was a tough, hard fought game, and that was a huge win for the Cougars now to be at 4-1. And Cincy they're in a little bit of a hole now at 0-2 in the Big 12, but that was the first Big 12 win for BYU, so that was a big deal. That was a crazy crowd, and a fun game to watch there as those two battled it out. But it's an interesting race this year. It's like the two teams that are leaving clearly are like the top two teams in the league right now. I know K-State could probably maybe have an argument, maybe before it's all said and done. But, yeah, the two leaving are pretty clearly the two best at this moment, and they're going to face off this weekend. And the rest of the league, it's like how much are you going to beat up on each other, and how many losses is everybody sitting there with? Is everybody going to be like a 9-3, 8-4, 7-5 team when all is said and done, or is somebody going to kind of control it a little bit more than others? I don't know just yet. Maybe a Kansas State will be the one to do that, or possibly a West Virginia.
Yeah, I just like they just seem to have a little grit to them. It's not like the 2021 Baylor team because they could pound the football, run for lots of yardage, but their defense, man, they do a really, really good job. Here are bangers. Bangers are ranked teams against ranked teams, although there's a few that are unranked against ranked that we might get to. We mentioned Texas OU, ABC. LSU, Garrett, at Missouri. That game at 11 o'clock Saturday on ESPN.
I'm a little nervous about that one.
Should be.
I mean, Ole Miss was a terrible matchup for LSU, but their defense is just absolutely abysmal right now. I don't even know what to make of it. It's hard. But you can't afford to lose to Mizzou. I'm sorry.
Well, they're at Missouri, and Missouri beat Kansas State just 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yep. That's going to be a high-scoring game. Yeah. That's what's going to come down to is going to be a bit of a shootout. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting outcome for sure because if Mizzou wins that, man, like look at what they're starting to kind of build up there. That'd be some, couple huge wins for them. But, yeah, if LSU, gets back on track, I don't know that'd probably be the most boring outcome, honestly, although that'd be the preferred outcome for Garrett. That's the one that probably most people would expect. But, yeah, I don't think that's a given by any stretch. And if Missouri wins, it's not only like, wow, look at what Mizzou's doing, but it's also like, oh, gosh, no, really what's going on with LSU at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think LSU needs to lose 3 or 4 in a row to keep up Florida State from having a quality win. At 2 o'clock, Cam Ward and Washington State at UCLA. The Bruins need a win because they lost that game at Utah. Washington State, Pac-12 network, so there's not going to be a lot that watch it, and that's not to be smart-ass, but that's true. 2 o'clock kickoff, Washington State at UCLA.
Pac-12 network, it might as well be on friggin' Telegraph.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's unfortunate. I know they have to do something while they're on their way out, but, yeah.
Washington State against UCLA. We've mentioned and discussed at length Alabama, kind of against A&M, thanks to Andrew Monaco, voice of the Aggies. But Alabama went into Mississippi State, ended up, it was like 40-21, whatever it was. Still, just doesn't seem to be smooth, but the defense is starting to make some plays, starting to see defensive backs get in front of a ball, and getting some pressure on the quarterback.
To beat A&M, though, Alabama's going to have to probably throw the ball a little better than they have the last couple weeks. I mean, I would just think. But, again, look, Nick Saban's going to figure things out. And there's nobody better at hiding his deficiencies than Nick Saban. I mean, like, playing to his strengths, yes, but part of being a genius coach is knowing when you've got a deficiency and knowing how to hide it.
It's easy when you got everyone that's like an All-American, but and they still have some, but this is him. He probably, I'm not sure he enjoys this more, but I think this kind of challenges him, and I think he probably enjoys that.
No, I think he probably loves that.
Yeah.
I would imagine it gets boring, the alternative, after a while, no matter how much success you're having. He's had success for multiple lifetimes, so I don't think like the national championship is necessarily, stoking the flames at this point. It's like, just how do you turn this team that doesn't look like a national championship team into a national championship team? And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that game. I had a dentist appointment earlier today, and the girl that was cleaning my teeth was talking about, like, do you like college football? And I was like, oh, you have no idea. She's like, I'm going down to College Station this weekend. I was like, oh, well, that'll be awesome. And it will be. That'll be a great seen. And, Alabama put it on Mississippi State. I don't think that says a whole lot in the grand scheme of things because – it still is a little bit of a struggle offensively compared to what we've become accustomed to with them. But I think we've said the last couple of weeks of they're just going to be a team that plays great defense and then makes a few plays here and there with Milroe on the offensive side, but not the days of old right now with that offense.
The running game was pretty good with the kid from Alito, Jace McClellan.
Well, Milroe is their leading rusher, but Jace McClellan as well, yeah.
Kentucky. Why aren't they higher than 20? Remember I mentioned this last week. They weren't ranked at all. They're a battering ram.
Yeah.
This could be, I know it's in Georgia. This could be a little bit more interesting than perhaps most people think. I think most people probably think it will be interesting now that I think about it.
I think that they can hang. It probably doesn't do them any good that Georgia got a huge scare this week and needed the Incredible Hulk at tight end to do what he did, and Brock Bowers. Maybe, I don't know if he's the most exciting player in the country, but he's in the top 5. My God, that guy's unbelievable. David Pollock had a funny tweet about it. He said, my wife watching the game goes, why can't they give the ball to Brock Bowers every time? And he said, well, here's why he's like, I don't have an answer for it. They should just give it to Brock Bowers every time. But, yeah, we'll see. We'll see if Kentucky's for real for sure, but I think they can hang. That's their first quality win, so to speak, was beating Florida. I think the jury's still out on a lot of those teams in the SEC East. It's you got to see as it builds up. I think they're probably going to beat up each other this week. We'll see. Missouri's 5-0, right? If they beat LSU, then that's a feather in their cap, and maybe you know something about it. But it's still the SEC's weird this year, man.
Back to West Virginia for a second. I just asked Michael DeHart. Did Paul Catalina apologize to Jack for questioning him about picking West Virginia TCU? Jack is now the Mountaineers' lucky charm.
I don't apologize to Jack for anything.
All right, last game on the list.
Go Jack. Yeah, he has no idea, or he does, and he's just still playing pretend.
And I may be wrong, but I thought that last week when I said that I thought the game between West Virginia TCU in Fort Worth would be kind of I thought it would be a really, really close game, and I got the side eye a little bit, but it was. And of course, West Virginia came up with the win.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are doing the whole we didn't believe and now we believe in you West Virginia thing because, at this point, the whole month has passed and they're still sitting there pretty strong. And so, yeah, if you doubted West Virginia, and I certainly didn't think that they would be 4-1 at this point in time. I didn't expect them to beat TCU. I just thought going to Fort Worth, I just figured TCU would have not necessarily an offense that would overwhelm West Virginia's really good defense. I just thought that they'd still be able to muster enough points to make it a relatively, and then defensively be able to stop whatever West Virginia was doing offensively. But no, it turned into way more of a mud fight and a physical fight than I expected that to. And I can't praise West Virginia enough for going and taking care of business. That was a really great win. But yeah, there's a lot of people I think going, about those West Virginia thoughts, but I don't know. There's a lot of seasons still left to play out. But right now, they are definitely one of the better stories. By the way, Kentucky and Georgia. Georgia's still a 14.5-point favorite in that game. That's how ridiculous Georgia is in the minds of folks. But they're still a 2+ touchdown favorite. But Ray Davis for Kentucky had a monster game against Florida. That was one of the pick'ems last week. And there's a lot of Florida love because they just got in the top 25. But, yeah, Mark Stoops and company just ran the ball down their throat, and Ray Davis had a monster game for the Wildcats.
I'm sorry, last game, for just a second, we got to get to a break. Coming back with J.J. Joe, Phil Bennett around the corner. Notre Dame, tough loss against Ohio State at home, and then they bounced back to take care of business. It wasn't easy, but they got it done, and they play Louisville, my favorite team to mention, Louisville. And there's a guy named, who's their head coach? Brom?
Jeff Brom.
Got a commit the other day, this high-level player that said he's there because he wants to play for Jeff Brom at Louisville.
This will be if we see Louisville's for real or not, because Notre Dame is clearly, they're tough. Marcus Freeman's building something there. They need more playmakers on offense. It's unfortunate for Sam Hartman that it's kind of reversed. Last year, the playmakers are carrying the quarterback. This year, the quarterback has to carry the true freshman. They've got some guys, but they're mostly true freshmen. So Sam Hartman's kind of carrying that on offense and not scoring a lot of points yet. Although Audric Estime is a battering ram, and he's a pretty good, he's a really good running back. But we'll see. If Novel's for real, we'll know this week.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll know this week, and then we'll know beyond that because they have not played a top 25 opponent yet, and then they get to play number 10 this weekend. And, obviously rankings can shift down the line, but they've still got games with Duke coming up, with Miami coming up, with Kentucky coming up. So, yeah, their second half of the season is really where we'll see the mettle of Louisville, but they're off to a great start, and this is a huge opportunity against the Irish. But the Irish do look pretty dang good.
Yeah,
they pulled that one out, though, the other night. Like that seemed like it was headed for defeat, and they were able to grab that from the depths and pull a victory out. So that was impressive.
All right, well, they beat Duke. They were top 25, and Louisville ranked 25th, so that'd be a couple of top 25 wins at least when they played the teams. When we come back, J.J. Joe was there in Orlando, did the games, color analyst for Baylor Radio. He actually tweeted at me after the game about the reactions of people during the game. We'll get into that. And what did they do that was good enough to get that dramatic win, and still what is wrong? J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback as well, is with us, 365 Sports. Garrett Ross, Emery Winter, Jack McKenzie, Levi Caraway, Craig and Paul. I'm David Smoak, and back in a second. Just announced earlier, I guess last weekend, that until through today, announcing at Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, 10% off MSRP on the 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited, Overland and Summit, 2-row or 3-row. You can get up to 10% off that and off MSRP. 10% off MSRP on the all 2023 Jeep Renegades, and that goes hand in hand with 10% off MSRP on all 2023 Jeep Compass, the Jeep Gladiator, all models. They have those selections right now, the Ram trucks as well. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, through tonight, the specials I just mentioned, on Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This segment with former Baylor quarterback and Baylor radio analyst J.J. Joe is sponsored by Alliance Bank Central Texas, where customers have confidence that their financial needs are in good hands with 2 locations in Waco.
448, 365 Sports, joined by Baylor color analyst, former Baylor quarterback J.J. Joe, who sent me a text, I guess this was yesterday morning, when I mentioned that I stayed off of Twitter during the game. And that's about it. He said, Smoak, main reason I don't tweet during games, you can look like a little schizo. College football's a crazy game. JJ, if there was anything schizo, it was absolutely Saturday's comeback. Would you agree?
Smoak, it's good to talk to you guys after a dub. I tell you, yes. I used to try to do that. We're in the booth. Now they have us on video in-house, people can see behind the mic. It's not behind the mic. I think it's in the booth now. But I used to try to tweet, but now I send a standard tweet before the game and then maybe afterwards. But, college football can make you ride the roller coaster. And I think a lot of our fans who went from nuke the staff to, hey, it's great. So you can look a little schizo there a little bit. So, hey, I stay off Twitter.
JJ, having Blake Shapen back obviously was huge. It took until the very end of the game for the offense to spark, to take advantage of their opportunities. How do they keep the fourth quarter going, not only into next week, but the weeks after?
I think I wrote this for you guys last week. I mean, ultimately it comes down to players just deciding, guys, there's no way we've gone from a lot of us being on a championship team 2 years ago to, about to go to 1-4 and hadn't won a game against a decent FBS opponent in, 8 or 9 games. So, and you saw it. I think you saw Blake come back. That was a huge help. Now, he wasn't a savior, although it looked like it, but I think Blake provided another dimension that Sawyer is just not ready to provide yet. And then he provided some toughness. I mean, I knew Baylor would win. After I think we were still down 11, Baylor scored. I think Blake threw a pass, maybe a 2-point or a touchdown, and he went to the sideline and you saw it. I mean, he pumped it, and then he just went inside. He punched there, and he was kind of like, "Y'all come with me," right? And I think that changed the whole tenor of the last part of that game. So, fantastic outing. It was good to see the players make a decision to put themselves in position to win, and things had to go their way, and they did.
JJ, I know that we'll ask more questions about, individuals and kind of how the game flowed, but just to what was that scene like there by the end of the game? Paul was there, was telling us how the stadium had emptied out because they were up so big, and all that. And then, to just see how improbable that comeback was. What was the end of that game like from your perspective?
It was stunning for them. I mean, because they did. I mean, it was a full house. It was bouncing. I mean, when they talk about the stadium bouncing, if you're in the press box, you felt it. I was leaning against the glass. I said, man, this thing is moving. So they had a really good scene. It was very energetic. They jumped on us, and it did. It looked like they were about to leave us as, roadkill. And a couple plays were made, and by the time the really third quarter started, because they had this really kind of interesting drive to start the third quarter, it was. I mean, you probably lost 5,000, 6,000 fans. It may have been more than that. And as that half went on, I think they made a mistake. I think their head coach, now I'm forgetting his name. I can't wait to get his name that fast. But he started, you could tell he kind of pulled off the accelerator a little bit and he milked that first drive, which really they got really lucky on that first drive. And I think he thought, I want to slow this game down. And I think that took a little bit of the air out of their sails and a little energy out of the stadium.
J.J. Joe with us on 365 Sports. How much of this carries over, or is it just they won and they can, go right back in the hole of what has been the problem?
Yeah, you can go back real fast, but I think the belief, and I'll say this, Smoak, although Blake is not a savior, I mentioned this last year. I said people were, kind of saying, hey, well, he's not the quarterback. And I was like, dude, it's a first-year starter. It just doesn't feel like he was a first-year starter, but he really was. And I said, give him a year. Just give him a year. He's got to go through the roller coaster of being a D1 quarterback with everybody saying, hey, how great you are one week, how terrible you are the next week, and they like the backup more than they like you. And he's gone through it, and I think he's on the other side now. He's on the other side where he provides some belief to the teammates. They believe, like, shoot, with Blake back that we think we can be we're in any game. But it still comes down to the detail. I mean, the defense has to set edges, man. We got to cover. We got to tackle. We just can't give up the kind of yardage and plays that we're giving up and think we're going to win on a consistent basis. You just can't do it.
JJ, they did not have an energy play all year long until the fumble recovery. I mean, but it seems to have buoyed their confidence, especially the way you're hearing them all talk after the game. How big are those things for teams to get those at points during the season? Because they're the first four, they just did not have a scoop and score, anything like that you would say would ignite the emotions of a team.
Yeah, I mean those non-offensive TDs, man, are huge because it get you still a possession. And you got to think about it. I mean, that dog on Caden Jenkins. I don't know. We need to find some NIL or something for that kid.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I think we lost Tevin, and I love Tevin Williams too. He's been out. He came back. He played a solid game. But I said, I don't know. He's just told coaches Caden Jenkins that he needs to start and he needs to be on the field, and unless his oxygen level gets too low, he just seems to make plays. He seems like the moment is never too big for him. He made the pick. It was a terrible pass by the quarterback, but he made the pick. That team was about to score at least a field goal again. He stopped that one with just making the catch. And then the scoop and score, he's in the right place at the right time. And those non-offensive touchdowns, that really solidified to me that Baylor's going to find a way to win this game. When he scored, I was like, okay, we're still down, I think, 2, but we'll get the ball and we'll win. But that's huge. The energy changed. They felt like, oh, my good, here we go again. And Baylor felt like, you know what, they let us get this close. Let's finish this deal. So it's huge for the team to kind of get that extra boost when you really need it.
Speaking of players making plays, JJ, one of the guys coming into the season a lot of people had high expectations for was Monterey Baldwin. Is that more of what you expected yourself when it came to what he meant to this offense, to this team, and how he could spark them?
Yeah, and I know it's a combination of things. I always say that I'm not out on the field and in the locker room and in the coaches' meetings and all that, but that kid has something that no one else on our team has. And he has the ability to run 23.2 miles per hour, and very few can do it. You have to use it. You have to convince him that you need him. And I really believe for some players, the just be ready so you have to get ready works. I think for Monterey, and I don't know it, I'm going off my guess after watching him for most of the season, watching the first part of the season when he was really non-existent, is that you have to tell him exactly what you need from him, why you need it, and how you're going to use it. Someone has to. It could be Blake. But somebody has to. And he has something that no one else has, and it is actually the coach's job. That's why they get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars. To get a guy like that who's coming to practice every day, who has the talent, you got to use him. You got to figure out how to use him. And they did on Saturday. And he, like Coach said, I think I heard Coach said he seemed like he's playing for something bigger than himself, and I think he was. And you can see, if you get him involved, he changes the way defenses have to defend you. That helps everybody.
Yeah, and I brought this up to Dave Aranda in the interview today about how his high school coach said that Monterey was part of this problem early in the year, that he had some things he had to get through. So that was kind of good clarification from that end, and Aranda answered that earlier today. When people asked about, they got to go, you got to get rid of this, you got to get – what I want to see is, does a team play hard for a coach? There was every reason that team could have quit at any time, really. It run 8 plays down 21-0. Is that something, JJ, that matters to you, that we obviously saw a team that did not quit on their coach?
Yeah, I think they really like Coach Aranda. I do. I mean, I think he's an easy coach to really like. I mean, he's going to be clear with you. He's going to be clear cut. He's going to try to make sure that he makes the environment good for you. But he's going to challenge you. I think he challenges these guys. He just goes about it a different way. And not saying he's a player's coach. I think he's a tough coach. But I think, ultimately, I think for Coach Aranda, his personality is such that he just has to have the right staff mix around him, or it could be player mix. I thought in 21 they had the right player mix and staff mix. It was just a wonderful marriage. This year, I think they're trying to find that mix from a coach and then also a player standpoint. What do we have to do to generate that level of energy? And even Coach Aranda on Saturday, I mean, he showed more energy, emotion than I've seen him show probably even in the times we won the Big 12 championship and the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, he got fired up over that missed field goal right before half. There was a clip of him that you would have thought they won the Big 12 championship, and they were down like three scores at the time. But he just knew that was a big play. I guess it was because he could tell that they hadn't quit, right? That they were still out there and just playing and making plays, and that's how you can inch your way back.
Yeah, and that's what man. You need that. I mean, you gotta. I think I have no doubt that these guys play hard for Coach. I have no doubt. I think they like him. They never quit. But something's been missing. I can tell you what it is, and I'm glad that they got that win because, as Smoak, you mentioned in the very first question, I think it can be igniter to what can be here in the next few weeks. And I'm just hoping, man. I just hope. I keep saying, put speed in space and see what happens.
I was on a radio station earlier today, and they were talking about the comeback. And T.J. Scott just brought this up in the chat room. The 2-point conversions that they scored. There's 4 points right there. UCF missed a field goal, had another one, I think, or an extra point. There were some what you call hidden points. And going for 2, you miss either one of those, you're in a position you need to not kick a field goal. You got to score a touchdown, which, of course, is a lot different. But the fact that they just said, let's wing it, let's go, we have the momentum, let's go for 2. And they're trying to make up as many points as they could.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that I don't study. That's when I think those advanced analytics guys that they have come in handy, right? Because they when they were going for 2 that first time, I started thinking like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
Right. And I looked at the score and I think it was going to make it 11 or 10 versus 9. It was something like that. I forget. And it took me a while to think through to say, oh, okay, it makes sense, right? But yeah, I mean, it came in handy, and they needed every point. And the play they ran, I thought, maybe they've shown that play, but the way Blake ran it made it look really good and really easy.
Yeah, they were down 35-10, then it was 35-16. They decided to make it 35-18 versus 35-17 right there at the start of the fourth quarter.
Well, because if you're 35-18, you're 2 touchdowns and a field goal behind rather than 18.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then it was 35-26 because they did it again, and then, that was crazy.
Right.
JJ, what did you just think of, or I guess gosh, kind of a two-parter, but how did you enjoy your trip to Orlando? But also, as we let you go here, what are your expectations when it comes to Texas Tech this weekend?
Hey, enjoyed Orlando, and I expect this thing to roll a little bit, man. I mean, Orlando was great. UCF was great. The environment there, man, is sweet. I mean, I like they had a big party going on. I think this thing rolls over to Tech. Tech's reeling a little bit. They think they're working on the backup quarterback. We have Blake back. Hate that we lost Mike Smith, but I'm looking for these guys. I think they believe something now, and that's a big thing for a team. They believe something. Now they got to do is go out and on defense, just play just a tad bit more clean, and I think they'll get another dub.
JJ, thank you very much. Appreciate your time every Monday around 4:45. Former Baylor quarterback and color analyst for Baylor Radio joining us. Next is Phil Bennett on many things college football, and one of the things I'm going to ask him about is how Baylor did not panic despite being down as much as 28. They kept running the football. And it worked. Kind of reminded me of 2014, not as dramatic, not as much on the line, of what they did at the end of the game to come back against TCU.
Yeah, sometimes, I think you get in your head and you do the math too fast, and you're like, we got to score right now. Well, sometimes it's better maybe just see if you run the football and get some rhythm going and score a touchdown then, and then worry about going fast when you have to go fast. Because I'll just use an NFL example. I see people do it against the Cowboys all the time. Look, their defense is really good now and causing them to win games in a fashion that is just so ridiculous. But sometimes you don't. I don't know. Sometimes, most of the times, you don't throw interceptions if you don't throw the ball. Mm-hmm. And if the Cowboys aren't good at stopping the run necessarily, which has been the weakness that we've seen in their defense, then why don't you just do that?
Yep.
Just for a little while. even though it might be 17-3 all of a sudden, like there's still a long time to go.
I learned a lot by watching how Utah handled a sluggish start with a quarterback that couldn't make plays, and they never got out of who they were as a personality, and eventually had just enough to win that game.
Not against Oregon State, though.
No, they didn't. No, you're right. Oregon State thumped them pretty good. All right, when we come back, Phil Bennett, his thoughts about some of the games over the weekend, his thoughts on Texas OU, and more. And this is 365 Sports.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Every Monday in the 5 o'clock hour, longtime college football coach Phil Bennett joins us. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, David Smoak. Thank you very much. Phil, I brought this up just a minute ago in the miraculous comeback by Baylor against UCF. That they were dead and buried, that they stuck to the running game, which reminded me of how Baylor came back against TCU because you were gutting them with Shock Linwood a lot, and they hit a couple of big plays. Right. But how much patience do you have to have when you're getting blown out and you just need to stick to what you do best?
Well, you know, one of the things, the stat that stuck out in my mind was they were averaging close to 10 yards a play, and we were almost double possession time on them. And that's good coaching. I mean, you're working as a team there. And as the game went on, you could tell that
that Jeff knew that we could run the ball on, and sort of like we could. I remember Randy Clements telling Art they can't stop. We were running a quad, same side. We ran three things. We ran power, we ran zone, and we ran counter, all to the same side. They couldn't stop it. That's what Jeff was doing. He had their number, and it is. You got to stay with the plan, and it sure worked.
When you get down like that as a coach, does the clock sometimes accelerate in your head so that you think you have to start doing that as opposed to going, well, there's still a lot of time. Let's just slow it down and see if we can get here.
Well, absolutely. You know, they get the Chiefs touchdown, and then, you know, it goes from, I think it went from 21 to 28 fast, and we're averaging, you know, 6-7 yards a carry. And I thought Chapin was playing good. And I truly, now I'm not saying this because they won, but I never thought, just the way the flow of the game, that they would be out of the game. There was some strange things that happened, and you can't afford to give up almost 10 yards a snap. But I thought offensively, with the time of possession, if we could ever get a hot play, a big play, something might happen. And I really thought they stayed with what they believed with, and I thought it won the game for them.
Coach, how do you make sure that is a season-building win, a season-changing win perhaps, versus like you get too high that you feel that experience and then it's right back to normalcy, you know, the following week? How do you kind of manage that from a coach's perspective of not getting too high, not getting too low?
Well, I read something that Coach Aranda said, and it's so true. He said that doesn't, you know, every week is a new page. It's a new beginning. It's a new end. Everything's new. And one of the things that he's looking for, he said, we got to get started. We've you know, and that's the challenge. Hey, you've proven you can do it. You come back 28 points, the largest in school history, and you can do it. Let's get started early in the game. Against Texas Tech, they can't afford to get down that way. I don't think they'll be able to recover. But let's get started. And I think the motivation of saying, hey, we did that under adverse conditions, we can do that. We can do it at starting the game, I think will be big.
Have you ever experienced in any way the Texas OU game? Because I know you weren't at either school. No, you were at Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah. I was at OU.
I'm sorry.
I was in that game.
What is that like as a coach, or just I've been to the game many times, all of us have, but just in that setting?
It's crazy. I'm telling you, the state fair just magnifies it. And the stadium, when you go out there, I remember Rex Ryan and I were at OU together. We walked out there and he goes, I've been dreaming about it. Of course, he was from Oklahoma. He said, I've been dreaming about this my whole life. And I'd always thought, well, you know, I played at A&M. A&M, Texas was big. God almighty. I mean, half the stadium is orange and half of it is crimson. And it is an atmosphere that you'll never forget.
Do you get like a corn dog to relax? What do you do?
You know what? I'm more of a funnel cake guy. After the game, I sort of, they beat us, so I sort of I starred on the funnel cake.
Okay, you played at A&M, and you coached at Baylor in Oklahoma. When you lose to Texas, does that sting for you in particular a little bit more?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know, first of all, let me say that Texas is an unbelievable place. Everybody knows that. Great place. You know, they have a tremendous history. But you know, I will go to my grave so mad at one official back in the Big 12 days. I don't know if you remember this, David, but right at the end when we're closing Floyd Casey and we needed in 13 to win the championship, we played lights out defense. I mean, we really played well. And my little corner intercepted a ball late in the game and ran it back for a touchdown. And this guy, if you could believe this, of all the officials, I've known this kid since he was a manager at A&M, called our guy for celebration and took away a defensive touchdown that would have closed Floyd Casey and against Texas. So in answer to your question, yes. I mean, when you beat them, you know that you've done something. And we ended up scoring, but we could have had a defensive touchdown. But yes, it is a huge game, and I'll tell you something. I used to get up for everywhere I've been to. I've gotten up for the Tech game. I mean, Tech is this year. They proved it early. I mean, even though they've lost a couple of close ones, you better jump on them and get in the mix early.
Coach, with Oklahoma and Texas, based on what you've seen so far, I mean, UT handled Kansas with relative ease. I know Jalen Daniels didn't play, but they got a huge, game from Jonathan Brooks on the ground. Seemed to be solid everywhere else. Oklahoma still playing good defense. Offense has some explosive playmakers as well. Just what are your thoughts based on the tail of the tape that you've seen between these two teams on how you're viewing this game on Saturday?
Well, I think the thing at Texas that sticks out in my mind is run game, pass game offensively. They're on. Quinn Ewing is really playing well. He's playing under control, playing with confidence, making good decisions. Defensively for Texas, I think they're much improved. I think they got a break the other day when Kansas quarterback got injured. Kansas had a little three-back package early in the game. If he would have stayed in the game, really could have caused them some problems. Same thing. OU, I think Jeff and, Seth Luttrell is there with him. I think they're very dynamic on offense, playing well. It's just whether they can hold up. I know against SMU, I talked to some of the SMU coaches, and they thought they had opportunities to score and move the ball. It was really a good game. So I think it will be a really good game. One of the better Texas OU games there's been in a while.
I see a Texas team on defense that their motor's running all the time. Everybody, maybe not 11 every single play, but the motor is running all of the time. Is that something that not so much they didn't have guys playing hard, but that maybe was an issue? Oh, yeah. I don't think there's any doubt. The one thing, David, that I'm going to add to that, they have good players, but I don't see any real dominators. I don't know how fast they are in the front. I mean, I was looking early in the game. If you remember, Kansas goes right down the field on the perimeter, and I thought to myself, man, their edges aren't as fast as what I thought they were. Now in the game they got better, but I think they are tougher. I think they play hard, and I think they're better coached. I think Gary Patterson being there helped them more than people will ever talk about. I think because he's a sound guy, he knows how to fit things. I think that's really helped them. Bill Bennett with us, 365 Sports.
Your Aggies have Alabama this week with a backup quarterback in Max Johnson. He turned the ball over a couple times this week, but Alabama, their offense is still not what they want it to be. How do you see this one going, and what does A&M have to do to make sure that Jalen Milroe doesn't continue to build his confidence? Well, they got to play defense the way they have, the last couple of weeks. They completely dominated Arkansas. Now, I know Arkansas had played better against LSU, but defensively they separated themselves. I was very pleased. Now, what's going to happen that's a little bit different is Milrose. They haven't faced a quarterback that could run like this kid. If you saw the Mississippi State game, I think he had a 40-yard touchdown run, and I'm telling you, he looked like Robert Griffin getting it in the house. He got in the end zone fast. So, I think that there's no doubt that Alabama doesn't have the offensive explosion that it's had the past 4 or 5 years. But to say that they're totally down would be a mistake. Now, I think there's A&M can play with them. I sure do. Now, if Max doesn't play better than he played the second half, they'll be in trouble. I really thought, I don't know, he sort of became lethargic, threw the ball away. Started the second half with a pick six. At the end of the game, had a couple of runs that he fumbled the ball. And I promise you, Alabama will be coming after him. It will be an unbelievable atmosphere in College Station here also.
Phil, I've asked you this, as experienced as you've been in the game as a coach. One of the things that I saw from Baylor in the comeback was obviously dramatic, but a team that even when there was a reason to probably say, the hell with this, we're done, we're quit, on the coach. Not that they did or ever was a thought. What is that like? Have you ever been on a team where the team has quit?
Absolutely.
What's that like?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. What I saw is just what you're talking about, David. They, there wasn't a doubt that they couldn't come back. Now, can they do it? And as that game, I watched the sideline with great, and I saw Coach Aranda get fired up, and I saw the kids. I mean, there was a lot of emotion, and they saw this thing happening, and the kids. I think it's a tribute to obviously to the players, but also to the coaches, because they believe. They're not dumb. They're hearing everything that everybody's saying. This with Twitter and all the different things. You're no good. Your coach is no good. But whatever's being said, but they have closed ranks, and it's obvious that they believe in their coaches, and they believe that we might not have played great, but we can still win this game, and this is what we're going to do. And now you got a new week, and you know what? And I'm sure Dave's telling them this. You know what? We've proved we can do it. Let's get started right. Let's prove we can start right. There hadn't been a game. Correct me if I'm wrong. There hadn't been a game yet that Baylor has started like a team that is capable of being a really good football team.
You're right.
And I think that's the challenge on both sides of the ball. Hey, let's do this. If I'm coaching right now, I'm going to say, hey, and we've done this before. I said, hey, let's get three and outs, 3 stops with no points. See where it carries us. Art used to tell me, he said, every time you get a stop, he said, I think our record was like 18-0, or 18-1 when we got 3 stops in the first half, 3 continuous stops, and we were up either 21 or 28-0. And you don't lose many of those games. And on the other side, you've got to get Jeff and his guys say, you know what? When we get inside that red zone and score zone inside the 10, we're scoring. No field goals. We're scoring. And that will take them to another level. And it's amazing. We don't talk about it enough. Everybody says, well, the talent's down. Look, talent got better. I mean, they played better. They performed. And in this game, the mind is a powerful thing. If you think you can do something, and like I said, you got your quarterback back. And I read a stat now, too. I'm going to tell all you this. If I might send Jeff a text. Whatever you do, make sure Reese scores, because your odds go up greatly. Because that's no BS. If he scores, you got a hell of a chance to win.
Coach, shot in the dark here, because I know you can't watch everything, but you dabbled at all and seen any of West Virginia, the big win over TCU the other night. They're not the sexiest offensive team in the world, but they're just finding ways to get it done and playing some pretty good defense. Just didn't know if you've seen much of them or not, but that was obviously a big win against the Frogs.
Yeah, I watched the game, and I'd watched them. Actually, I've watched them twice. I watched them against Penn State early, which they played the dickens out of a very good Penn State team. And then I'd watch them against Texas Tech. And Tech, it does some unique things on offense, and they played soundly. They're getting good quarterback play, too. This little quarterback they have is gritty. During the game, TCU was getting after him, and it didn't affect him. He came back. He missed the Tech game, and he really helped them in that game to move the sticks and to work it down to get the lead. I think Neil and his guys have been underestimated. I think that whoever plays them better buckle up, because I think they're better than a lot of people believe. And once again, I think they're believing that they can win games.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you, guys.
You too, Phil Bennett. He was a part of that Texas A&M and Texas rivalry, Oklahoma and obviously Texas rivalry. Kansas State, when they were really good, had some great games against Mack Brown and company. And so he's experienced that. Texas OU this week, and then, of course, even the A&M Alabama game, but also a lot on the win and the comeback from Baylor on Saturday.
Well, I mean, that was, for those who don't care about that game, that was historic. I mean, that was season saving potentially.
Yeah.
That changes the entire narrative. If we'd walked in here today the way that was going at the beginning, I can't even imagine what that would have been like. But no, we touched on a lot there, and I think it's pretty clear that he's a fan of what he's seen from Texas Tech. I mean, that's, you can't let your guard down coming up this week. It's a rivalry game. Obviously there's the personal history there between the staffs. I mean, just this past offseason, Tech goes and hires Juice Johnson off of this staff, the running backs coach, and he's now coaching receivers and is like the next man up basically behind Joey McGuire now. And there's a lot of others that went originally with Joey. So he clearly likes what he's seen from Tech. And, they've had some results that didn't go their way, but they've been in games, and they do have some firepower. And they are, more than capable of coming in here and, doing what UCF did at the beginning of that game if Baylor's not careful. I think Baylor, too, is fully capable of beating Tech, if Tech doesn't play better than they have at times. So I think it's going to be a really good game, and it's going to be huge for whoever emerges from it. But whoever wins this game, they're 3-3 all of a sudden, where they were 1-2, because both of them won their second game last week. And 3-3 is a heck of a lot different than the potential 2-4 or 1-5 that you could have been looking at for both of these squads had they not won last week. And that'll also put you at 2-1 in the Big 12. It's a big game for both of these teams to kind of set them on the positive side of the fence. And for the loser, I guess it'll mostly depend on how that unfolds, whether you lose a close game or whether you get blown out or something along those lines. But, you're going to be behind the 8 ball, and it's going to be, time's only running out. It's not, more games on the horizon. It's getting less and less opportunities.
Yeah, there are, every time a game is over, you have less opportunities to fix your season, and they're going to be, dodging that all the way around. I mean, there's the way that they've played. There's nobody on the schedule that you can say well, for sure they got that one. That'll be a cakewalk for them.
Because of who they're playing, or because what we still don't know about them?
Because we still don't know. It's them. And they've only proven one thing, and that is that they do actually have some moxie in them, and that when they had the opportunity to do what they did it. But the majority of the evidence is not what we saw on Saturday. It's what we saw in the other games. So they have to make sure they've actually flipped the script, and this was not just one shining moment in the sun, that they, can look back on the season, because that's the last thing you want to be is 3-9 at the end of the season. But remember that comeback against UCF? That was hilarious, man. You don't want that. You want this to mean something more than just that day.
I honestly had the feeling that as it was 35-7 or even 28-7, I had this thought in my mind, knowing that I would have a chance to sit down with Dave Aranda on Monday, that, my God, what do I say? I mean, did you think about resigning at halftime? I didn't know. I'm just joking there, but what do I say? And so there were those thoughts in my head as I was watching the deficit get larger and larger.
The talk in the press box among those of us who have been around the team for a while was, this is starting to look eerily similar to the darkest days of Baylor. In the way
you're talking 90s and all that.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, not
the late 90s, early,
not prolonged, failures, but the way that this particular team was playing would remind you of the late Kevin Steele, early middle Guy Morris teams, where it's you certainly see that they have good things, but when they have opportunities, they waste them. They don't, again, the fumble would have been a thing where they kicked it around, and maybe they recover it, but then because the offense has to get the ball back, they have 2 false starts and they don't get a first down. So then it really didn't mean anything. They just helped UCF run out the clock themselves. So those are the things that were happening, and then they turned around and played with confidence and emotion. So we'll see if that rallies into Tech this week.
Yeah, I mean, but I want to go back. I'm talking about Tech too. Tech needs this win really bad as well. I mean, Baylor does, but I mean, you look at Tech's second half of the schedule, buddy. If they lose to Baylor, then you're getting K-State right after that. You're going to Provo. You're getting TCU at home. You're going to Kansas. You got UCF, and then you're going to Austin. So, maybe after this weekend you go, UCF, maybe you do that. Maybe. But, there's not a given win on the rest of that schedule by any means for them. So, at 2-3, this is huge for them as well. And the winner of this game probably has the inside track on making a bowl game, whereas the loser of this game has a pretty big hill to climb to probably get to that point, I would think. And I just saw Sir blah, blah, blah mention something about Clemson and realignment, and the chat just scrolled by. I saw whoever that reporter was that put out like it's happening this month or whatever. I forget his name, from Tigers Illustrated or whatever. I saw a tweet from him the other day that basically said like nothing's happening, but eventually something will. So it's more of that, like there's nothing to that at the moment, but they did, if that was teased like something was like imminent, which has happened quite a few times.
No, you're right.
Yeah, like this month something's happening. Well, it's a new month, and now like the way that I read his like messages was, well, no, not right now, but eventually. So everybody's kind of playing this long game with the ACC of like, yeah, eventually everybody's going to be right because eventually something has to happen. It's just, does it happen this year or does it happen in 5 or 10 years? That's the part that nobody can really nail down. We just assume it'll happen in the next 1 to 5. But yeah, as far as anything imminent, that does not appear to be the case despite that report, because even that guy is sort of backtracked off of that.
One of the things we learned during realignment the last 2 years is that you better be careful about what you report, and you need to be careful about who you listen to. And again, you just can't throw crap against the wall and hope it sticks.
The insiders like will tell people, like the reporter who might have thought he had some good information. But if you know a guy who's on the board and is working with that, and you ask them, what about realignment? I promise you at Clemson and Florida State, they're going to tell you we feel good about it. Because Florida State has said it very publicly that a document is not going to stop them from doing what they want to do, whatever that is. What they want to do is a broad statement, because specifically you've had different opinions from different people. Clemson has been more silent on it publicly, but everybody knows how they feel. So their people even are going to drop out things to insiders because they want to see how those things move the needle a little bit. But yeah, you definitely do need to be careful who you're listening to and why they're doing what they're doing, because, and we appreciate every view that we get, but we are also not going to make something up just to get a view.
Absolutely not. Like, that's probably where we err, is we probably should do more. Honestly, no, we shouldn't, because that just, I couldn't stomach being like that. But I do want to like make clear, like David Hood's a Clemson writer, and he said a few days, like last week, that there was nothing to this, like nothing's going on. So the person that I saw, and I can't remember their name, but I believe was the one that originally kind of teased that, hey, something's coming this month, and that was looking like they were backing off of those claims. But David Hood's one who's been pretty adamant that wasn't going to be the case. You know, eventually, you know, hey, 6 years from now, see, I told you. Yep. It's like, okay, well, I guess you did. But that's kind of what it feels like. Although it also does feel like that, no, they're not going to wait till 2036 or whatever for something to happen. But my gosh, that's still 10 plus years away. Yeah. So
yeah,
we'll
you can't
see.
sit there and say Clemson and Florida State are bolting the ACC, because bolting like seems imminent. Right. And then 5 years from now, I told you.
Gotcha. Yep. Told you. Yeah. That's kind of weird. Yeah.
All right. Thank you to a lot of the discussion, the chat room today. We're not done. I'm going to go dig into a couple of different things. Paul's top 5 around the corner. But there was a story in Texas high school football. I'm not sure if you saw it, an official and a player in a game that was here in Central Texas, that I want to just throw out there of what you think should happen to the official, because the UIL has at least released some information on that, and this is 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue in Waco. 2 locations to serve you. 1, the new downtown locations, more about what's hip and what's trending on social media, those kind of cocktails. And then the original is more old school. It's about your craft bourbons, your local Texas craft bourbons, of which they have, you know, whether it is Balcones or Devil's River, they've got those there. And right now, it is fall. It's October. That means Oktoberfest beers. That means fall beers. They're churning that roster again. The fall beers are there at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Lakeshore Drive is on 19th Street, and now in downtown Waco. 2 great locations to serve you.
During Ram Power Days at Allen Samuels in Waco, get 2.9% for 72 months on new 2023 1500 Lone Star and Laramie 4x4 crew cabs, or $11,000 off MSRP on Lone Stars and $12,500 off MSRP on Laramies.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Looking to connect with Baylor alums in your area? Baylor Alumni can help. Looking to host a watch party in your city? Baylor Alumni can get you started. Want to step out in your community and serve with other alums? Baylor Alumni is your connection with the university and each other. Let's get started. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Samantha Duvall, Marketing Director for TexasBeefHouse.com. You know all about their great Wagyu beef and product they have. You can go to TexasBeefHouse.com for anything you want to order. But, Samantha, thanks for your time. There's an auction coming up in the month of November. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so November 11th, we're having our first public beef auction. It's going to be here at our ranch in White House, Texas. It's going to be a live auction. You can bid in person. You can bid on the phone, or we'll also have it online. And we're auctioning off Wagyu and Angus beef. We'll have 30 to 40-pound bundles. They'll be full of steaks, hamburger, and primals. This is perfect for not only the restaurant owners, but also homeowners.
So if somebody wants to load up your deep freezer with some great product from a place that is just delivering all of the time, with Wagyu from their ranch to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at UnitePrivateNetworks.com.
All right, we don't do a lot of high school football because it's mainly college. On occasion, we have NFL and then some of the other stories. But this is more, I'd like to get your feedback as listeners. So there was a high school football official in a game involving Whitney High School who got tied up with a player, a Whitney like linebacker or defensive player. The official eventually ends up with his face the helmet of the player in his hands, like this, like a club. He turns around, the player raises his hands like, what the hell just happened? And the official then walks a couple of steps and throws a flag. Ejects the player from the game. So it was out there. Mrs. Haynes, whose husband is a coach at Whitney, sent me a video, and I responded to her on Twitter. Here is the UIL, which handles all of high school sports in Texas, and their response. The UIL is aware of an incident involving a sports official and a student athlete during the Whitney game against Madison last Friday night. The situation is of great concern to us, and we are actively looking into the matter. Now, the update of this is the player has been reinstated. It will not be an ejection. He can play immediately when Whitney plays their next game. And the official, at least for now, is not going to be a part of the games. Now, I don't know if that's for a week or two or what his reasoning is, but it was an official that grabbed the face mask of the player and pulled it off. If the player had done that to the official, Lord knows how much of a suspension he had. Should the official be a part of any game? There's not enough of them in Texas. Should he be a part of any other games the rest of the year?
No. I mean, I know there's not a lot, but like that doesn't let you be like, all right, well, next time don't get in a fight with a kid. Your specific job as an official is to not do that.
Your specific job is to not even be seen.
Exactly.
Just go about your business.
Look, and you're the adult in the room in high school football. You're the adult in the room in the NFL. I mean, that's what you are. So, yeah, there's no excuse for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard for people who don't know what you're talking about to understand what you're talking about as much as you described it. You really need to see the video to understand where you're coming from here, because it's just much clearer what you're trying to describe. But based on the video that I saw, the official needs to go. When you've got the player was coming across and ran into him, and it wasn't intentional. But again, if you see it, you'll see this clearly. And at that point, there was a little bit of a tussle of sorts, and he rips the helmet off basically. And so the official's just standing there with the kid's helmet in his hand, and then goes and throws a flag with the helmet in his hands. And it's like, what world are we living in? This is it was bizarre. And I know there's a shortage, and so it's going to be tough, for those making the calls on officials to be down a guy, I'm sure. But in this case, based on the video that I saw, I don't know how you continue to put him out there with that kind of behavior. And, we don't know what was said and all that, but given who the player is and who his father is and how he reacted to it, I'm assuming that, they have a beef for a reason. And certainly, even if he said something pretty smart-ass, it didn't call for an adult to go and rip the helmet off of a kid. I mean, that was ridiculous. And then throw a flag on him as though he had done something wrong.
Yeah, here's the video. I got clearance to run this video from Coach Haynes. Here's the video. Look at the ref umpire, right? Kid backs into him. Run into each other. The official reached up and grabbed his face mask, pulled it off, and then here comes the flag.
Garrett, can you run that back for me? I'm sorry. This is...
So they're bumping into each other, clearly, but it's not it's just you're in the way. Dude, get out. And he throws him. Yeah.
And then here comes the flag.
With the helmet, doesn't throw him, but kind of tosses him with the helmet. Yeah.
I was initially wondering if maybe his hand just got stuck in the face mask. Let's watch it one more time. Watch the official's left hand grab at his face mask.
All right, get out of the way.
Right?
Oh, sorry. Whoop.
There.
I'm going to take your helmet off.
So,
yeah,
that would be your argument, but I don't know if that's the argument that he presented. If that was the case and your helmet got stuck, then I don't know why you're still throwing a flag on the kid. Why would you do that?
Yep. Well, I mean, because the kid bumped into him, was trying to get around him, and then he turned around to get around him, so the official had to go up and grab it. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean,
but so he grabbed him.
He reached up towards him.
Right, he grabbed him, but then I'm saying, did his hand get stuck? Is that why it's still in his hand? Either way, yes, he made the first contact, and either way, he threw a flag on the player as though the player had done something wrong. So, yeah, there's no – I mean, I get that it's not the most glorious job in the world. These are, paid volunteers and all that. And we always hear about the officials and their struggles sometimes and things like that. And I am open-minded and can understand a lot of that. But that right there is just an adult who is not behaving like one and who did something that they should not be doing and way crossed the line based on what we have there, barring something of I caught on my hidden microphone, he called me this or that. And even then, that's not how you would handle that either.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's not a good look by any means.
So we'll have more on that Wednesday with our high school football podcast that we have on 365 Sports as far as our reel. When we come back, Paul Catalina and the top five, this is 365 Sports.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 Big 12 observations. We're going to go through the conferences this week. I've already done several. I do that because I care about Emory and his time, and he can work ahead.
Emory kept me from bleeding to death earlier today.
So, hey, look, he's a hero. I mean, honestly, it's like firefighters and doctors and nurses and Emory. Like that's who it is. Top 5 Big 12 observations. Number 5, Baylor and Tech certainly shot life into their seasons. It could have been very bad for them if they were both playing this game at 1-4, because even then, the winner is still not necessarily the winner in the game of life when it comes to the Big 12 season, because that becomes a game that is really, really bad. And look, 2-3 at 2-3 has some more juice to it, but neither of their problems may have been completely solved this last week, but at least they got a win, and this is not 1-4 and 1-4.
Yeah, I mean, there would have been no way to kind of put lipstick on that pig if that would have been the case. But both of them coming off of wins, you're right, it adds a little something to it. Now somebody's going to be 500. After all that either one's been through, somebody's going to be 500. They're going to have 2-1 record in the Big 12. They're going to be halfway to bowl eligibility at the halfway mark of the season. So, yeah, I think it's a big game, and that's not even counting Joey versus Aranda and, the old staff versus this staff and some of those, like, other things that we can talk about. But, yeah, I mean, Tech, they had their hands full with Houston there for a little while like that. Mm-hmm. They separated in the second half, and they had the lead at halftime, but, posted the shutout in the second half. Houston, man, there's some struggles there. I mean, I don't know how long Hoglo is for this whole Cougars thing, but
we'll get to them in a sec.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I mean, Baylor obviously a historic win, so both of them really needed that, and it came at just the right time, and definitely adds some sizzle to the game this weekend for supporters and just outside observers.
Number 4, take Neil Brown out the hot seat. Take him off. Take him off. He's 4-1. Everybody thought he would be 1-4.
Oh yeah,
he's 4-1. And there are probably people out there that thought he might lose to Duquesne. But he's 4-1.
Now that's first-class hating right there.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to give him a Duquesne game. That's a first-class hater.
There were so many people. And look, he was very confident. Like, sometimes you can tell coaches are, like, trying to tell you what their narrative is because they've got to sell it to the team so that they can sell it to you, then they can sell it to them, and on and on and on and on. But he was very confident and very ticked off about the narrative around West Virginia. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't trying to sell anything other than just watch us play.
Right.
Just watch us play and tell me what you think about our team when we do that. Well, don't tell me about 2022. Tell me about 2023.
One of the things he brought up, and I'm not sure how it's worked, but was that they had their entire offensive line was back, and how important that is in the game of football. And like having your point guard back in basketball, except in football, there's 5 bodies. And he was angry. He wasn't like over the top, but I agree. It wasn't just a coach acting like bitter or whatever. He was frustrated because of how people viewed his program.
Yeah, I think he was genuinely frustrated. I also think he knew what kind of ammunition he had because of that. Like, it's boiling down to, like, the wrong background color on their background drop at media days, which, you know what, that is disrespectful that they didn't get that right. So, like, whatever works. But we've often talked about, like, kind of the silly motivational nature of coaches and, like, how they'll, like, look for any sign of disrespect, but
like
they really
Kirby
were
Smart in Georgia.
Yeah, exactly. But like they really were getting disrespected. Like they you know what? All these new teams that haven't played at the Big 12 level, they're all going to be better than you. Like just except for Houston. I never got on board that they'd be worse than Houston, but I think he's off. I actually went to coach's hot seat for the first time in a long time. It looks like they've revamped this bad boy. I don't know when they did that, but he's not even on there. At this point, he's not even on the list.
Good.
Dave Aranda's on there at number 9, which I don't even know how realistic that is, quite frankly, even before last Saturday. But, he's not even on that list anymore, and it does seem like he's thrown some water on that little burgeoning fire that was building in Morgantown for at least the time being.
Yeah, absolutely. Billy Napier's at number 3, by the way. I'm not ready to buy that one yet.
Yeah, I think it's a work in progress because some of these, are not quite as automatic as you think.
Yeah. Number 3. Houston's got big problems.
Yeah.
Man. They've got big problems. They've got a roster problem that they did not. I don't think, and I'm not blaming Dana Holgorsen for this because some of this is you just can't withstand it. It's stuff that happens from the outside, but they really should have come into the Big 12 last year when you have Clayton Tune and Tank Dell and those guys. That would have been better for them. When you're Houston and you have a guy, Clayton Tune, who's 4-year starter, Tank Dell, who is going to be one of the more exciting rookies in the NFL, it looks like, this season, and playing with C.J. Stroud. Like, those are just 2 of the guys. Alton McCaskill now goes to Colorado. So and he wouldn't play last year anyway.
He was a big player for you the year before.
But he was a big player the year before. So, like, all these things that you had going as you entered are off, and, like, it's easier to flip the script, but they struggled at the beginning of last year when they had a lot of those guys. They had those struggles. So how long does Dana Holgorsen hold this off? We even heard, Chris Pesman even said that he knows that Dana Holgorsen isn't nuts about the way that college football works right now.
Right.
He's got tons of money, so maybe, one day he just says that's it. But Houston, in the early stages of the Big 12 for them, has real problems now. It's probably a shorter fix than it used to be, but again, you have to have the right people in place to do that.
Yeah, like Donovan Smith started off pretty hot, but then eventually Tech, got onto him. And
boy, he did start lightning fast.
He started off really well. I mean, that was a fun first half, and then it was like Tech scored 7 in the third, shut him out. Scored 7 in the fourth, shut him out, and that was the second half was 14-0 shutout. But the first half, they started off well, and I think what Dana said really the main message, I guess, coming out of that game, and fans won't love it, but he's like, we need Big 12 bodies. Like, we're just not built up like they are. And, they got embarrassed on special teams. That was, I think he said, was as bad as he'd seen since they'd been there. So, those were a couple of the reasons that he pointed out. But, yeah, it's not good right now. I know fans aren't loving just the whole trajectory at the moment, and I know he just doesn't give a you-know-what, pay me my buyout or whatever, but it is very kind of just, you could feel something sort of bubbling if they're not careful, and maybe even if they are careful, it doesn't matter. But, yeah, they're going to have to figure some things out down in H-Town.
Number 2, OU's offense is revving up. 50 points. They've already done it, but 50 points against Iowa State. Craig, you mentioned it. Iowa State has given them headaches the last few years, whether it's losing to Iowa State or barely winning against Iowa State. They've had problems, and they just dropped 50 on them. And while they don't have the running game that they would like to have yet, or necessarily the takeover a game running back, and they lost a couple good ones in the last couple years. Especially Eric Gray, I especially think was really good for that offense.
That's where Oklahoma fans get upset. You say, well, they don't have the same talent. It's it's not saying they don't have talent. It's saying they don't have CeeDee Lamb, Eric Gray necessarily. And look, that doesn't mean other guys can't turn into those guys. But at the start of the season, they didn't have those proven guys.
Yeah.
Now they're starting to have some guys show up regularly and turning into those types of guys.
Yeah.
I watched the full game. I was accused last week of making a comment about Oklahoma, and I had not watched but a half of their game. I watched much more about Oklahoma than you could ever imagine. I watched a ton, basically the entire game. I was a little bit taken aback by how many big gains and big chunks of yards they gave up on defense. And then they eventually, I guess they responded. But they do that early against Texas, and they're going to need to score 45 or 50 points.
Before you can completely suffocate someone on defense, which I don't think is necessarily possible week in and week out in college football, even for the best defenses in college football right now. Look, Michigan's got a great defense. When they get into playing Penn State, they're not going to completely suffocate Penn State.
No.
That's just hard. But you have to – the first thing you fix – Phil Bennett did this at Baylor. Okay, you can move between the 20s – I may not be able to stop you.
Right.
But when the field is shorter and you have less space to work with, that's where we're going to get you off the field.
Red zone defense. Give up field goals, not touchdowns, or at least most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what they've done a lot better this season.
Yeah, and I do think their receiving course coming along. You got guys like Anthony and others that are starting to, be like, I guess, names and guys that are developing into your star type of players or your playmakers. It's not stars necessarily, but your playmakers. You're starting to see that identity coming forward. But yeah, the running game's still a work in progress. But they've definitely made big strides. I know you say they gave up some chunks in there, but they're still clearly way better than they've been in the last 2-3 years under Lincoln Riley defensively.
Those chunks didn't end,
or last year even too.
Those chunks didn't end in the field of play, Smokey. They ended with the other team on the sideline high-fiving each other last year. Yeah. That's the difference.
Yeah,
that's a big difference.
No, that's probably a pretty good point.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see. The Oklahoma defense, can they get a couple of stops early? And this doesn't turn into like in the past, they've had shootouts, and OU's been fine. They can win a game 55-50 against them. But that's what I will be watching. Can they run the ball? Because we know how good Texas has been against the run on defense.
Yeah. Number one, Texas is not messing around. Okay, so they play an uneven or uninspiring maybe half to their fans against Kansas, who's a good team, but without their starting quarterback. And Jason Bean's got him hanging in.
That was such a bummer, too.
I know.
They're like, all of a sudden he's out with the back. Like, did we have any inclination that was the case? Or it was just like, boom, he was out?
No, that seemed to be like a last-second deal. Yeah.
And Jason Bean's like if you're going to have a solid backup quarterback, like he's about, outside of the programs that have like 5 stars waiting in the wings, like that's about as sturdy of a backup quarterback who's started multiple games as you could have. But, go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, but what good teams do is when they start slow, they respond quickly. And I think the narrative of halftime adjustments has been overplayed a little bit. But for good teams, it's not really about halftime adjustments. It's just going in and wrangling those emotions a little bit or getting out of your own head. And then a coach walking over going, hey, the next time 75 comes across your face, do this. And then they change it, right? So those are the things that happen that are really subtle, but it's not a coach in the locker room drawing up something that he thought of that they haven't practiced. That's not really what happens. But Texas, when they respond with vigor. And I think that there are times that with Jason Bean at quarterback at Kansas and a Texas team that was heavily favored to beat them, only beating them by 6 at halftime, that game would have wound up 29-28 Kansas in double overtime. And everybody's talking about, well, that was stupid how that ended. And Texas is left, holding the bag again.
And a former walk-on's got an Applebee's deal all of a sudden.
Yeah, all that would have happened. This Texas team said, nope, not this time. Go. And they stepped on the accelerator in the second half.
It honestly reminds me of like their glory days in the early 2000s where, you got them close at halftime, and then it's like, oh, well, the second half still has to play out, and then boom, they just jet off, and you don't have the guns or the ammo, the weapons, however you want to describe it, to keep up, to keep pace with them. Oklahoma should be a team that's built to do that. So this weekend is going to be amazing to watch these two go against each other, because I do think there's still so many questions about like Texas is clearly good and Oklahoma is clearly better, but compared to each other, sort of where are they, right?
Yeah.
And where's both of them in terms of like the national landscape? Like Texas obviously ranked high, Oklahoma's up nearly the top 10 at this point, but like where are they, against each other? I think is a burning question. And also one, for the remainder of the Big 12, because obviously whoever wins this is in the driver's seat after Saturday. But, Texas, they look really good. Now you got Jonathan Brooks this last, 2-3 games, really turning it on and turning into like a reliable just star running back for them. And,
violent runner.
Yeah.
He's violent.
Oh, yeah. And so, like, they just don't have a ton. I know Coach Bennett pointed out, like the edges, can sometimes, but, I mean, for the most part, they don't really have any weaknesses. And Quinn Ewers didn't have, like, a big statistical game, but he had a really sharp, smooth, good game. He threw a pick, his first pick, but outside of that, he got some damage on the ground with a couple big touchdown runs.
Yeah, he's now become a little bit of a problem because you have to cover so many weapons everywhere. He is not afraid to take off and has some speed to do something with it.
Busted off like a 30-yarder or something in that game. So, yeah, I mean, they're really salty, man, and I'm fascinated to see how Oklahoma stacks up with them on Saturday.
I'll tell you this, though. Here's one of the things about I just went and looked at the box score. Oklahoma gave up touchdowns of 51 and 67 yards and a 39-yard run, and that is a problem. And now Bowman had the pick six early, so they're creating things on defense despite giving up that. That, to me, has to be – they're giving up the big play, even to Iowa State, who is okay as an okay team. All right, Paul, thank you very much. Welcome back, Jack McKenzie, I think. Also, Emery Winter, thank you for being a part of it. Levi Caraway, Garrett Ross, great to see you. Garrett and I flew solo and away on Saturday. Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. We appreciate all of you. Our sponsors, of course, who help us have the energy to go every single day so we can do what we do, and our partners, Ashley, Cole, and Brian. Good night, 365 Sports.